they did yesterday and hopefully get a little bit more adrenaline in there and maybe even be able to drop down and get into like that 209 range, sub 210 on the men's side, and on the women's side, see if they can do anything to get up into that second place spot around CIA.
Right. With a lot of, we talked about Spirit. Spirit's one of the independent organizations. We talk about independents and Greeks often enough. Back in the day, it used to be predominantly dominated by Greek organizations. And right now, I know one of them isn't considered a Greek organization with Fishing Club, but behind Fishing Club is Pi Kappa Alpha. Pi Kappa Alpha pretty much, I would say, set the standard for Buggy. Over the course of 10, 15 years, they were able to dominate the course. I know SEC's been dominating over the past couple years, but nothing still compares to the legacy that Pika has as far as Buggy history. Alumni still come back. Tom Wood is on the course. If anyone sees him, you can talk to him about the history of Buggy. He's a great resource. We call him the guru around the course. With that, you will never not see Pike alumni back at Buggy. It's what keeps them coming back. It's what made their house so strong in the beginning years, and it built the brotherhood that it is. In the past couple years, we've just seen, I think, bad circumstances. A lot of things in their control, but a lot of things out of their control, and that's put them in a position to still keep their legacy, still continue their tradition, but in such a confined way.
8-minute
Now,
warning.
I wish them luck in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and 2 quick points on Pika before we move on to introducing another team here. They're the only team that's competed in Buggy since the first year, and they're one of the big houses that does not compete in booth. They put all of their effort into Buggy when it comes to Carnival, so that's why it's such a big ingrained portion of their house. And the other big Greek organizations that we've lost in the last couple of years, KDR and Phi Cap, who put a lot of effort into Buggy, were out most of the weekends. Those teams are gone. So now those legacy teams that were in for many years doing Buggy, we don't have that with the Greek side anymore. So I really hope that Pi Kappa Alpha can get themselves back into that point where they're competing for the lead again, because really it's just like Ferrari in Formula One. There's no Buggy without Pika, and Pika really needs to be strong for the sport to be strong.
Right, absolutely. Talk about other Greek organizations. We have, I think, in terms of fraternities, you have Sigma Nu and then you have Sigma Phi Epsilon. Sigma Nu, I think just because of recruitment over the past 8 years, has seen just a decline in numbers. It's not necessarily saying their alumni aren't involved. They don't have the ability to do so. They don't have the technology. They just don't have the manpower. And it's just unfortunate. Chapters go through ups and downs. They go through really big personality changes, because a house's personality really shines through on what they're involved in. So unfortunately that's taken a turn, but you still have Sigma Nu brothers who are invested. This year's safety chairman, Griffin, is a Sigma Nu originally. I remember talking to him every weekend at Rolls when I was chairman and head judge, and talking about what they're doing, and it's like, well, it's still alive. It's still alive. It's still helping them. So I think it's an anchor for Sigma Nu to hold on to, and I think as long as they keep that anchor, they're not going to go away.
Yeah, and one great thing about Sigma Nu, real quick, and then we got to get back going. They have a complete turnover now with Griffin gone. So,
and congrats to Sigma Nu, 100 years here on campus, centennial for them. So congratulations, Sigma Nu, Mark Estes. Who else are some of these characters out there in the field?
Absolutely. I'm going to hand it over to Connor here in a second, but I want to quick talk about SIGAP. Being a Sigma Phi Epsilon alumni, the house has gone through a lot over the past 10 years. A couple years ago, last year we celebrated our 15th anniversary being on campus. The house has come so far as having buggies like Pandora, which still rolls for the life of me. I don't know why. It isn't a tank. I've seen it take on a car and win. But that being said, it's still a great training buggy. But the house in and of itself has grown. It's gone from, I remember seeing
5-minute
composites
warning.
being of 20 brothers to composites being of, I think, upwards to like 70s. It's a great big house. They're very involved. They're involved in, Connor mentioned, kind of the big three, as we call it. There's Greek Sing, there's Booth, and there's Buggy. Being involved in all three of them kind of stretches everyone out, but they still come out and they still do their thing. This year with Buggy, they've had not the turnout the alumni like to see. They haven't gotten a lot of practice, and I think it shows on the minutia. But what you always see from SIGEP is they will always come out on race day 110%, and you will always see them putting that effort into getting a sub 2:10 time where you're just like, we didn't see him out today. Yesterday, if there wasn't a mishap with Kraken, they were on par with the sub 2:10 time. They had upwards of 51 seconds of stop sign. They had almost King of the Hill by .02 seconds. That they were gonna be a huge contender. With today, they're gonna be great. They have a great driver, Sophie. Havoc's a good buggy, not the fastest we've ever built, but it's a great.
Havoc or Hydra?
Hydra, I'm sorry. I'm not keep calling
Wow.
Hydra.
Stealing buggies.
Yeah. I'm looking at the sheet and just looked at a different buggy. But with that, they're going to come out with fast pushers. I see a lot from them today, but the biggest thing that never changes about SIGEP is the heart that comes out.
And speaking to SIGEP real quick, they're a team in transition like a lot of the other teams on the course. There's a lot of turnover in that house now. They're going to be, next year, a lot of their leading members are going to be moving on, so it's going to be very interesting to see how they can rebuild the organization, similar to the way that Fringe has over the last 3 years. On race day 2 years ago, Fringe was rolling 2 buggies that didn't have fairings on them, were not completely finished, and also just didn't roll as well as we expected from Fringe, especially after they built Bonsai, and then followed that up with Bisa the next year, which both were highly competitive buggies. So the fact that Fringe not only this year built a new buggy, they also converted Bolt from 2014 to roll on different wheels. So the whole steering mechanism, everything had to be redesigned, rebuilt, and replaced. New fairings, new paint job. So that's almost a build in itself. But then on top of that, they did the same thing with Balius. So they rebuilt 2 buggies this year, built a new buggy, and were able to finish up Beacon finally, get the fairings on it, get it all cleaned up. So they put in a ton of work this year, and then you saw it yesterday. Their A team made day 2, their B team made day 2, which they didn't do last year, and their C team was right there on the edge of making day 2 on the men's side. So they really were a very competitive team across the board, like we expect to see from Fringe, and it's great to see.
After talking with them on during regular rules on weekends, there were older members who were saying the biggest contribution that Fringe has made in terms of recruitment has been recruiting a lot of young members. So their members during each year, their seniors, their juniors, and sophomores were kind of a little bit low, but their freshmen this year have really upped the population of Fringe. So that means more rolls on weekends. That means more practice. That means being able to build and replenish their buggy depth to the point where, like you said, Beacon, Balius, and Bolt coming out and being top-tier buggies instead of being like, mid-range.
Just about 2 minutes here until this first exhibition heat. We can get into some of the other teams' bios there, but I think this is probably a good opportunity where, a lot of people, this may be one of their first race days out, or, they weren't here yesterday, maybe need a little bit of a refresher on the course. So, what are we kind of expecting to see in 1 minute here when we get this exhibition? This is looking to be Spirit, I think 2 Spirit teams pushing here. Spirit, one of kind of the deepest alumni networks that you have out there, and it's great to see them back out here pushing around.
What you're going to see today is the entire course is 0.85 miles long. We're going to be pushing up hills 1 and 2. You'll hear today. Hill 1 is all of Tech Street up until this crosswalk here, and then they're going to push down Shenley Drive all the way to Phipps, down past Phipps to the end of Flagstaff, and they're going to make a sharp right turn through what we call the chute, and up Fruh Street, back up here, and those are hills 3, 4, and 5, back up to the finish line.
And one thing you're going to hear us talk about a lot today is rollout. Rollout is how far up the buggy goes on hill 3. And this year we're seeing rollouts, as we like to mark them as by windows
9,
on Baker
8,
Porter.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ready, set.
5 5-second DQ on an exhibition.
No, yeah, exhibitions don't.
But that is an important rule. You want to go through the 5-second DQ.
Sure.
What that would be here, we have Spirit v Spirit. But want to talk about the 5-second DQ, just something to watch out for today.
Now, the 5-second DQ is speaking for anyone that doesn't. By the way, anyone who doesn't know, myself, my name's Anthony. I am a former sweepstakes chairman as well as head judge, and I'll be going over some of the rules today. The 5-second qualification or dequalification rule that we have is that no member other than the pusher may be within a 3 to 5 foot radius around the buggy within 5 seconds of the race starting. So no mechanics, nobody else. So only the pusher and the buggy are allowed to be at the start line within 5 seconds of the start bell.
Looks like we might have a little push here. This part right here is a free roll. These two buggies coming through here. One area we always like to look at is the stop sign time, when those buggies cross that stop sign. So it'll look to be about a 1 minute there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty key indicator of how fast you're rolling, how things are going to be finishing up.
So
And,
it looks like we're lining up for a pass in the chute. You have the trailing buggy definitely taking a narrow line. Both
Whoa.
in, a little twitchy, but yeah, through cleanly, both buggies. Heading up the hill 3.
Who says you
Much
can't
better
get some?
rollout on the green
Yeah.
one.
Who says you can't get some excitement from the exhibitions?
And you can see here the rollout that we're talking about. That's coming up there on Hill 3. Now, you can't see the windows from the camera angle, but on Baker Port, or the building right next to it, we count up to the windows. And if they hit the staircase, we call that rolling the plug. And if you hear anybody talking about that, probably Mark will be the one that's giving us that information about where they were on the rollouts. Rolling the plug means basically that's the highest we see the buggies go. We don't really see them go any further than that. We've never seen one do an entire Hill 3 by itself, but with the rollouts we're seeing this year, it may be possible.
It may be possible. Usually what's happening is they're losing a touch of speed coming through the chute. It's nothing against the buggies. It's just what happens naturally. It's friction. What are you going to do about it?
Wow, and this Spirit team putting up a near qualifying time. I'm not sure quite who these alums are on this first squad, but that's going to be a 2:24.9.
8 minutes until exhibition 2.
I think that would that be a day 2 time?
No,
Just short of a day 2.
Day 2 was fringed with a 2:21.
2:21,
Yeah.
almost qualifying there. So exciting stuff in that qualification, or excuse me, that exhibition.
Actually, guys, if they had swapped their front hills, they would definitely have been down in the teens.
Yeah. Because this buggy that came through, what Mark was saying, their Hill 1 was way behind the other buggy on Hill 1. So if they had put Glenn, who was pushing in the middle here on the other team, they would have qualified for day 2 on an alumni exhibition, which is very impressive.
I don't
Sounds like
think
somebody
I've
needs to
ever
come back for
seen
the
that
Masters.
Exhibition that wasn't an actual A team running.
I think a lot of these pushers used to be A-team pushers.
Yeah,
back-
Glenn was
way
A-team
back when.
last year.
I know. Yeah, he was last year. Evan Moss was on Hill 4. If you didn't notice him,
All-time most yoked
Yes.
pusher in top 10.
oh, definitely top 10.
One of my favorites, Evan the Boss Moss. All right, while we're getting ready for this second set of exhibitions, I want to talk about some of the other teams we didn't get a chance to mention there in that first round.
Sure. So we talked about Spirit a little bit in terms of what we expected. Connor definitely made a prediction about it. But in terms of what Spirit means, Spirit in its beginning is a multicultural organization. It's not necessarily one culture, one group of people. It's multicultural. They've always been one of the more opinionated groups on campus, and it's fantastic. It brings light a lot of things that you don't normally see. Every year they have different color schemes to their buggies that they repaint. Different year, different theme, which in turn is a different generation of Spirit. They all bring that together. They're also a big, huge family. If you ever talk to anyone in Spirit, their alumni base, because it's so huge, is because of how close they are. And every Spirit member will tell you that. Connor talked about the problems that they've had. They've had problems with spinning out in the chute. They've, I think, rectified those problems. They've figured out what was wrong. It could have been weight differential, being a standard trike versus a reverse. That Connor can talk about that in a second. However, they fixed those. So now they're rolling out times that you would expect a top-tier team to actually push out. Not to mention they've had experienced, passionate pushers that are going to make those times and couple with fast buggies to put out, a top-tier time.
Yeah, and just a quick talk on the buggies. You can even see it on Zook, which was the buggy that spun yesterday. That's probably one of their more unstable buggies. It used to be
warning.
significantly worse. They actually made a big change to the wheelbase last year, about 4 or 5 inches further backwards. They pushed that rear axle, and it has solved a lot of those problems. Now, we did see it snap yesterday through that shoe turn and really hit the bales pretty hard backwards, but they are definitely working on that, and you can see it through the stability of how much faster their buggies are going. You saw the rollout for Spirit there. They definitely got multiple windows. In previous years, Spirit was the team probably that had the lowest rollout of every team, and they were, really just making it to the line of where Hill 3 started.
Right.
So for them now to be going up the hill and making it through the chute with this extra speed that they've added is very impressive for the mechanics and anybody else, drivers, pushers that have been involved with that. So we've got 2 more teams really to touch on that are in finals today. Apex being one of them and CIA being the other. And obviously SDC, but we're going to give them their big props when we need to, because we all know that SDC is, most likely going to roll out of here today with 2 trophies and possibly even 2 record times.
Yeah.
So they really
Or just
unbelievable
just one
year.
record time.
Definitely one, possibly the women's as well.
Yeah.
So, but I guess I can talk to Apex being
I don't know. Can you?
being an alum and one of the founding members. All of the founding members at this point have graduated. There's 2 of them still around finishing up master's degrees, but they're not really that involved. They come out, they push for us, but it's a new team. It's completely new, and their push team recruiting is great. Their push teams that they're recruiting now are 10 times what they were when I was on campus. And you could see that in the fact that the last couple of years they've been right about that 2:20 time, even though their free roll has not been the most
3-minute
impressive.
warning. 3 minutes.
They have Phoenix, which rolls well, but just weighs too much to be competitive.
Yeah.
And then they have Ember, which is more competitive in weight, but just doesn't roll all that well. And I was very involved with that build. The buggy's been rebuilt like 2 or 3 different times, so at this point, they really need that buggy technology. They need to get a more consistent build schedule. They worked on a buggy this year. They didn't get it finished in time for race day. Hopefully, they'll get it done this spring, have it ready for the fall. And then maybe that can start some momentum building for them on the buggy technology and free roll side of things. But they really need to sit down with each other, think what happened this year. Why didn't we get the buggy done? Why are we slower than every other team on the course? Because they had the slowest times for the free roll yesterday, consistently across the board, yet still put a team on day 2. So they should be very excited about their push team, very happy with the direction of that push team, but they do need to sit down and have a lot of internal discussion. How are we going to work on this? What do we need to do as a team to organize ourselves better? What do we need to prioritize? And what items can we pick on to invest our money in and our time in to really get that free roll time down? If they can get their free roll time even a second or 2 better, that makes it a lot more comfortable for them to make day 2 on the men's side, because they just squeaked in with some disqualifications this year. Last year they had a trophy on the men's side in 6th place. So they have a lot of stuff to work on, and I'm anxious for them. With how invested and how much time I put into it, but I want to see them do well, and I'm hopeful that they'll reach out to their alumni base, their other teams, and just ask questions. Do your research and do everything you need to do to get that buggy technology up, and try to pull something like CIA did last year, where they went from one of the slower rolling teams up towards the top of the pack.
Got about 1 minute till this next exhibition. 4 exhibitions we're going to be seeing today. This one we have Pika, not Fishing Club, but Pika, CIA, and Spirit. I don't know if we have any background on this. Potentially old school grudge match or something. I'm not sure.
A little bit. I think what happened was due to the unfortunate events of yesterday with prelims, Fishing Club was not able to finish due to a not holding onto the push bar going over the finish line. So with that, I think they wanted to give their driver another shot, get their A-team another shot at pushing, and just have like a good race day. It's a good way to end the year. Not to mention, it builds morale in the team. You don't want to end on a bad note. You want to end on something high.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, set.
And here we are. So imagine probably a pretty good time out here from Pike A. You can see them flying up Hill 1. They got a great Hill 1 pusher there.
Gabe Renna, I think, is a 2-time King of the Hill now.
Yeah.
So and that was even slower than I expected from him, about a 17. He's been about a 16 low, 15 high the last couple of years.
Holding nothing back on this exhibition. Pretty powerful there into the free roll. CIA Spirit.
And you've got Ben Matsky, BAA president-ish, on Hill 2 there, pushing off Orca.
Pike into the free roll, and nothing more beautiful than a sunny day in April, seeing that buggy going down Shenley Drive like that. Just warms the heart. Nice 53-second stop sign time there.
Yeah, excellent. Coupled with the speed of their buggy and how experienced their pushers are.
Nice entry. Slide there with the grip. The wobble towards the end, but very, very clean line. It's remarkable that we're seeing Snake after the goal there minutes 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. It's one of those things that like you tried to practice not to do, and somehow it just got away from him. But I also think he was injured during the last couple feet.
Spirit buggy spun and shoot.
And that was the same buggy that crashed yesterday, and it looks like it did pretty much the same thing. Spun around, went back into the bales. That was Zook.
Yep, almost the same spot.
Fish Club here, is that the same Hill 5 as yesterday?
No. What happened was I was talking to Fishing Club mechanics. He suffered a hamstring injury right about where the pusher is here. That hamstring injury made him like clench, and the buggy just got away from him, so he wasn't even able
And
to
a
get close to it.
2:11.86, and obviously, doesn't necessarily count
Jerry Carlson.
for much,
Jerry.
but that's a great time, and it's good to see that out of Pika, the Fishing Club, whatever you want to call them there. It's at least good for the team around. You
8
can see
minutes
that,
until
that result
exhibition
there.
3.
Put him about 4th place.
And I know Jerry can run faster than that. Oh, they're
I wonder on a day when it's pretty clear that a 2:18 would have gotten like into the final, you would wonder why the pusher would go all out and use the push bar. And yet now we understand with an injury like that, it's a little more understandable how this push bar could happen. Perhaps they were actually making the right decisions, but Mother Nature even must have forgotten.
Absolutely. I think he might have been injured a little bit before. I think on truck weekend he suffered a minor injury, but I think they were. Oh,
Good.
okay. Always good to hear. I know it's. Connor, you were a chairman, a mechanic, a pusher, as well as myself. It's scary to see one of your drivers, spin out, crash.
Yeah. I got pretty lucky in my time. I only had one of my drivers crash. Unfortunately, it was my freshman year. It was during our first pass test, and we, still didn't really know what was going on. But on top of that, when that buggy did crash, the hatch came off. So I was, very worried that the driver was hurt. And when I went up to her and I was like, Mallory, are you doing okay? She just went, I don't know. I hit the bales. Just get me out. I'm all right. And I was just like, oh my God, it was just. It was that relief of knowing that she was okay, because out of everything that we're worried about, competing, putting up the best free roll times, all of that stuff is just really fluff. The most important thing in this whole thing is the drivers.
Absolutely.
Making sure the drivers get around the course, and are safe, comfortable in the buggy, feel safe in the buggy, and then get out on the other side with a smile on their face.
And maybe because of the road paving, but this year a lot cleaner by and large. And even when people aren't necessarily making it through the chute, it doesn't look particularly dangerous as opposed to the past couple years. So definitely something good to see out of this race day. By and large, the women's race yesterday was, I think, Spirit B was the only team to spin out on the women's side.
Yes.
Which is pretty huge. Men's a couple more than that.
I want to say with that, most of the teams that failed for women's were mainly because of drops. There's about 4 teams that failed because of drops. For those of you who don't know, after every race, each buggy is tested for their braking capabilities.
And you can see it on the screen right now.
Absolutely.
So continue.
As you're watching. And what they do is the buggy is
5
released
minute warning.
and
5
gravity
minutes.
takes over. They travel about 30 feet, and they're given about 15 feet, give or take, because it's a sidewalk, to brake. It just demonstrates that the driver had the ability to brake. The brakes are working. Sometimes, I guess, maybe back in the day, teams used to take out brakes just to sacrifice weight, and it was making them unsafe. I guess that was a rule that they put these drop tests in. Not really sure.
Well, the other thing was a lot of teams, and I've seen this happen personally before, is brakes start rubbing. The brake systems don't exactly want to not touch the wheels, so they would remove the brakes to allow the buggy to roll without having any problems where the brakes might start rubbing.
There you
So
go.
Well,
So with that, we want to make sure.
They were removed. They were tweaked so as to not rub, and that might make them not break. No.
We have a replay coming up here of what happened there in the chute with Spirit, in case you're looking to see that here on the chute turn.
she came in there a little bit wide, it looks like, being down there below the yellow line. Looks like she just tried to cut in real tight, and that probably is what snapped her around. Mark, could you speak a little bit more to that?
Actually, I missed her turn, so I'm watching it for the first time.
You're the chute expert.
I was staring at the Pica buggy rolling up Hill 3. Sorry.
She just comes
Right
in
about,
there and
yeah.
Yeah, well,
snaps it.
the one place in the chute that's rough is right where she came through. There's a little bit of a gnarl there, and it probably unsettled her. And then over here, you saw the impact, the effect of that.
I think the good news is there, at least, she went in
3
backwards.
minutes.
I think that is the safest way for a driver to be in an accident, head first, because they're front-loading buggies. So with the buggies, all the drivers currently, in the past we used to have drivers get in from the top of the buggy, but currently all of the drivers go in feet first from the front of the buggy. So to get into that buggy, you have this big hatch in the front, and a lot of times with the impact on the bales, you can see those hatches potentially come dislodged from the buggy, which then is exposing the driver potentially to some impact with hay bales. Most of the time the hatches do stay on, but sometimes the crashes are just very, very big crashes that can lead to that happening. So when the buggy goes in backwards, there's really, for the most part, the backs of those buggies are sealed. There's nothing that can come off of the buggy that can actually get in there and impact the driver. So that definitely would be, if I were a driver and I was going to get into a crash, I would want it to be a spin and backwards into the bales.
Right, if you're going to get. And also, these drivers are prone. They're laying on their stomach. Their hands are extended outwards. They're holding on to a steering mechanism, whether that be a wheel for the standard trike buggies or a steering bar for the reverse trikes. With that, if you're going in head first, it's like, okay, well, there's my hands. If something happens, it's like you're right there. With going in backwards, there's still a give between your feet and the rest of the buggy, so there's more room, there's more cushion. So I agree with you. If there was anything that would be a safety, more safe way to crash, it would be that one, backwards.
Coming up shortly on our third of 4 exhibitions, SDC and Fringe here, trying to get a read. It looks like maybe Lum Hey for Fringe.
Yeah, you can see, I think she was running up here in Hill 2 earlier, Faith Clayton. One of the fastest female
1
pushers,
minute
probably of all
warning,
time.
1 minute.
Has pushed pretty much every hill at some point for Fringe on race day.
Yeah.
Was on A-Team for 4 years, and was on their, what you call it, was on a lot of their A-Teams, and just really was the face of
I would
Fringe
say,
women
as she's
pushers.
looking up at the booth, I've won rolls, I think, back in, 2013. I saw her Ironman at 3:45 one weekend.
Wow.
Yeah. It was one time, and then she
I
sat down
can't
and said,
even
I'm done.
walk 3, 4, 5 without getting out of breath.
No, Faith doesn't go anything
Wow.
less than 100%.
Wow. STC, not sure. It looks like maybe mechanics.
Faith, I think, even at some point wanted to do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but didn't figure out the logistics on it. She's saying no, but I think I heard it at least once out of her mouth.
No, I think this is Bane rolling up to the finish line. If anyone from SDC can confirm. Is that Bane? That's Havoc.
10,
All right. So
9,
Havoc is rolling out for
8,
SDC.
They're also dark
7,
now.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, set.
And here we go, third of 4 exhibitions here. Getting set to get started with Race Day Finals 2016. SDC and Fringe exhibition squads. SDC.
And it looks like Fringe is doing 2 different pushers on Hill 1.
Hill 1 and Hill half. Hill
You know,
1?
that wasn't a bad Hill 1. Like, comparatively, that wasn't bad. I think this is the mechanics group pushing the
For
effort.
SDC?
SDC.
Yeah.
Looks like it might
They
be.
look pretty competitive.
Yeah.
Faith gets that Hill 2 push right there. Gliding into that free roll. And, major difference from past years. You can see just how clean this course looks.
Absolutely.
Really nice riding.
The biggest thing is once you reach Phipps, it's pretty well paved, but it's the area right after Phipps. We call it the shoot turn. The shoot turn being
A sub
nice
1
and
minute stop
even.
sign. 1:02 there for Fringe. So respectable times both.
Right. SDC, now French takes the upward transition. SDC taking the shoot flag. A little tight, but great turn, very aggressive. Nice. Fringe coming through, very smooth.
It's nice to see how clean they're rolling. Let's see how that transition is to 3. Buggy's coming through with a lot of speed this year. Picked up pretty nicely by SDC. Now, I'm not sure, maybe it's a mechanic team, but they're putting pretty competitive time.
Yeah. And talking real quick back about the course conditions, another thing that they did this year was up at the top of Hill 2. There were a couple of potholes last year, and they cut them out and patched them, which is very important for the free roll. If you get a pothole at the beginning of the hill, it's going to slow you down the whole way down the hill.
And is that Hill 4? Is that Ed, sweepstakes chairman?
Yes, it is.
It is. Shout out to him, though. A ton of work had to put in this year. Anthony, I know you know, as a former
Yeah.
sweepstakes chair, just how much has to go into making today possible.
there's I want to say a lot, but a lot's an understatement. That being said, people don't think it's just rolls every weekend. What you're doing is you're coordinating with a fantastic advisor, Casey Palco, coordinating with City of Pittsburgh, coordinating with City of Pittsburgh Public Works,
8
the Pittsburgh
minutes until
Police,
exhibition
Pittsburgh
4.
EMS, the school every weekend. All this stuff to make sure we just have the roads, period, so that we can roll and get practices in. Race day in and of itself, we have to close off roads, get extra police, get all the barricades, making sure all the teams are safe and all the waivers are accounted for. It's a lot. You really don't get a lot of, I'd say, free time would
Yeah.
be the way to describe it. But a lot of work goes into it, a lot behind the scenes, and people come to race day, they're just like, oh, well, why isn't this happening? It's like, well, there's like 10,000 things to do. Like, be happy you got this.
Yeah, and by and large, it's been a very smooth race day. Congrats to all of sweepstakes this year. Through yesterday, obviously today we're looking for some more great buggy action. Again, these are just exhibition heats. See some new people lining up here. So happy you're joining us here. Race Day Finals 2016. I'm Will Weiner, Anthony Pacella here. We lost Connor for a second. He's going to be in exhibition. Mark Estes in the shoot. We have one more exhibition remaining. Then we'll get into the women's finals, trying to see who gets on that podium. Then we got men's finals. Been a wild weekend already. Some very close times. We've seen a record broken. Another record has been approached on the women's side. So lots to look out for coming up here. So you guys are definitely in for a treat here. Of course, props goes to SDC Men's A. They got a 2:02.5. Previous record was a little bit over a 2:03. But something interesting about that's just a qualifying time. So yes, it is a record, but they do still have to come out here today, make sure they finish their race, make sure everything comes together. Could be a potential area for them to either further break that record or, just try and hold on to that number one spot. We were doing team intros, kind of to segue from there. One we didn't really get into was SDC, but just such an amazing showing on day one. An 8-second margin, both men's and women's. What are you expecting out of them today, and maybe a little bit of their backstory for the fans out here?
Sure. We have two independents really to talk about, CIA and SDC, but since you brought SDC up first, we'll talk about them. With SDC, Student Dormitory Council, they are essentially the representative of all of CMU. With that, they're able to take any pushers that they want. The team itself didn't start off the way it is now. What they've become over the past couple of years has been the most competitive team. With that, they have always a large group at rolls every weekend. They have a large group working on the buggies every single day, making sure that they're in tip-top shape. They put a lot of investment into wheels and builds, and you can see that in how well their buggies are made. They're pristine. They're even. The wheels are fantastic. Their carbon fiber finishes are flawless. So that's what you see. That's what you see in STC. They're great. Other teams always like to get on their case for having, I like to refer to as a paramilitary type structure, but it wins, and it's about the details in Buggy that go from a team that's good and a team that's great, and STC has proven to be a great team because of that detail, and that's what they've done on Raceday.
Yeah, I mean, everybody guns for you when you're at the top, but they're the New York Yankees of this Buggy. Just so dominant and so impressive how consistent their program is. The other independent we want to talk about, CIA. Baseball metaphors. Perhaps not quite the Chicago Cubs. Maybe. Lovable. They're one of the most fun teams to watch out there.
Absolutely.
But they're serious as well.
CIA has gone from, I think when I started in the late 2000s, when I saw CIA, dressed differently, had kind of some costumes. They looked like they were the fun group, and they had fun every single weekend. Until a couple years ago, especially with Ben Matsky putting out Ascension. Ascension was really, I think, the turning point with CIA, and CIA started putting out better and better buggies. And then it was kind of like this kind of epiphany where it was like, wait, we have great buggies. Let's start getting great pushers. And then that transition finally came, and it went from CIA being like, hey, they're on the course, to being like, hey, watch out for CIA this year. CIA's women's team has definitely proved that.
Mine is.
So, sorry to stop. We had a brief communication issue.
Sure.
But we talk about CIA again. CIA's men's team is number 2 right now on the leaderboard with the only 210 time. And their CIA women's team is the only one that's able to really make the effort to beat SDC as far as top of women's. So CIA has become really the top tier org behind SDC as far as independence. I mean, not to say Fringe isn't, but they've just surpassed Fringe as being that competitive.
Yeah, and it's going to be on both sides a lot of closeness and kind of that below SDC independent between, CIA, between Fringe, between Spirit, very tightly stacked up against one another. We'll start breaking that down when we're getting into the actual races. Again, here on the cusp of the final exhibition, then we get to finals here at Raceday 2016. In lane 1, we have a SIGAP exhibition. Is this their B team, perhaps?
I'll let you know as soon as they come out. Probably. Sure. I think it's their B team.
In lane 2, we have Apex, some alums. Our broadcast colleague, Connor Hayes, out on the course. So nice to see some of the OG Apex folks. And then Fidelt in lane 3 as well.
All right.
Just wrapping up the comments about orgs. CIA was the first independent org to show that you could recruit and win with a hell of a push team back in 1981.
All right, Mark, we're going to stop you real quick. If we can get a caption to the booth, camera back on the booth, please. Yeah. All right. Just a real quick shout out before we get a camera post. There's a little boy up here at the broadcasting booth. His name is Gen. If anyone's looking for him, he's up here with us. He's comfortable. He's watching the races with us. So if anyone's looking for him, he's up here at the broadcast booth.
4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, set.
We're off here in the final exhibition. SIGAP pushing up there. Does that look like the B team there for SIGAP?
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see Kraken back out on the course. With that, I know we had a big mishap yesterday with losing a wheel. It was incredibly unfortunate, but we were able to see them back on the course. We get their B team pushing. It's nice.
See our colleague Connor there coming into the hill too, puffing and puffing a bit.
Yeah, Connor, we need to start training, buddy. But also with that, Connor's come a long way. I remember meeting him back in 2012 when he's like, hey, I think we want to start a Buggy organization. And then all of a sudden, now look at Apex being one of the bigger teams on the course.
All right, stick up through the upper transition flag. Backwards shoot. Taking the flag. Late turn, but nice and smooth.
I didn't.
Running those same red wheels, no wheel covers. Rolling smoothly through the turn. I see no bearings falling out. It's a good sign.
Yay.
Coming around now into Hill 3. SIGAP looking to have a pretty...
Buggy through the chute. Making an interesting line, but it's pretty smooth.
It's still waiting on Apex Buggy right there.
Now there's Jack Kaplan, one of the mechanics for SIGAP. Fantastic mechanic to boot, pushing a great hill 4 right now.
Fantastic mustache as well. Is that a mustache? I think so. Is that a shadow?
I don't know.
I don't know. It looked like a great mustache, so.
That's pretty good. That's all right. Not as good as yours, Will.
Wow. Wow. It's a beard. Great. SIGAP here, looking to see what time they can get again. Unfortunate. It won't be out there rolling, but looking to be a pretty competitive time right here. Coming across at a 2:18.35.
Yeah, solid time. A little bit better than yesterday, or about on par. But with that, it's, they're rolling a little bit of a faster Buggy, but same push teams. So that being said, it's a good time. It's a good way to end, partially end SIGAP's race day this year.
Coming across now, we have Fidelt there, about a 240. Here comes Apex. Hill 5, trucking. 247.93. All right, so that does it with the exhibition heats. Things about ready to get underway with the women's finals here on Race Day 2016. I think we're going to have a lot of excitement here. Obviously, SDCA fairly far ahead of the rest of the pack, but everybody close in. What do you think we can expect to see out of these women's races coming up, Anthony?
Now, SDC has fantastic buggies. SDC women's, I think this is women's C team. Women's C team put up some good times yesterday. It was about let's see if we have it here.
Yeah, I have the times. Women's C team.
All right, so women's C team was looking at a 2:47, but a 2:48 time. I think Lindsay Kincaid, our SDC Hill 1, is going to put up a great time this morning. Lindsay, I know you're listening. Looking for a 19-second. If you can do that, that'd be great. But we're going to see a nice SDC run today. Probably knock off a second or two. I'm going to guess 2:45 for them, just about. However, they're going against another CIA team, another CIA women's team that's going to try to, make that competitive women's times a lot more competitive, a lot closer together.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, no, I was saying CIA last year's champion, perhaps surprising SDC a bit, but again, another nice time, pretty clearly in second place by about 2.5 seconds. Expect to see some good stuff out of them.
Now we're seeing the drop test, and I'm curious why drop test an exhibition heat. It's not like you have an official result.
all right. Well, I think they were looking at it, and I think it was more or less. It's when you're talking about drop test, it's run by the head judge. It could have just been they wanted to do it. These buggies also might be used later. Kraken, I know, won't be, but Ember will be rolling later just to keep consistency. They're going to do a drop test just to make sure that Ember's not being tempered with in any way, shape, or form, and the driver's still safe. So why they would do it in a prelim is probably because of that. And since Ember's getting drop tested, so must Kraken, just for symmetry and fairness.
There you
All
go.
right, so I'll give you my take on what's going on with women's heat. I see in this realm where everyone's running great wheels, or at least most teams are running great wheels, you don't see a lot of passing, but what you do see is execution will give you results. And every single team out here has a chance to improve. SDCA women's team, not the best pickup on Hill 3. I'm sure there was small errors here and there, and setting that record would be about perfection. And they have it in them. The rest of these women's teams, with small change here or there, the mix can change, right? I think every one of these A teams is in the mix, and probably SDCB as well for best of the rest. So, kicking it back to you guys, this should be very exciting.
All right, for the rest of the course to know, the women's time to beat for record set in 2009. 2009 was a good year for SDC. They set the course time for women's at 2:25:60. So that is the time to beat. Do you think they could do it?
And just for perspective, their day one time was 2:26.56. So about 1 second off of that record pace.
Yeah.
I think that the course is a little bit warmer right now. Their heat's going off a little bit later. That'll help them on the free roll. Like Mark's been talking about, their Hill 3 pickup, she kind of was caught a little flat-footed, so that'll help them out a couple tenths there. And then they just need to figure out where they can cut off those extra tenths throughout the course. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them get that record today with how close they were and how much effort and time they've put in this year. They really, I think, wanted to make a statement after last year that they weren't falling off. And if they are able to set the record again, on the men's and the women's side, this might be one of their best race days of all time.
Absolutely. With a good free roll, what we're going to be looking for is probably mid-50s stop sign time, as well as just solid transitions. Transitions will make up little, bits of time here and there, but there's 4 transitions. So those pickups, especially a Hill 3 pickup being near perfect, will might shave off that whole second and a half that they need to break the record.
Interesting note, there are 0 fraternities running on today's women's finals? None.
Wow. I mean, fishing club, obviously a club dedicated to catching fish and whatnot. Though they do have, I'm getting warmed up.
That's a solid breakdown of what Fishing Club does.
I don't know what fishing club. I was in student government once. I'm sure I read their bylaws or something. But fishing club, obviously a derivative of Pi Kappa Alpha.
The big pike swallowed the little fish.
Hey, there we go. All right, lots of fish jokes coming for you today. They'll be coming up in a little bit. This first women's heat, Spirit A, SDCC. Spirit came into this. Trying to find that time. Spirit came into this 238.67. That put them in fourth place, but they're only about a third of a second behind Fringe A for third. So this is an area where you want to see Spirit, maybe tighten things up a little bit. They could be top three. This could be a huge race day for them if they get top three in both men's and women's. Very possible, depending on what we see here.
I mean, with Fringe, you're gonna have good buggies. They have good pushers. I think we talked every other heat yesterday about the recipe. The recipe is, proper transitions, good push-offs, a good free roll, and then good driver mechanicking.
All right, let's go ahead and run down the lineups, introduce these two squads that we have coming out here. First in lane 2, SDCC on hill 1, Lindsay Kincaid. Hill 2, Ginger Glass. Hill 3, Emily Chen. Hill 4, Genevieve Parker. And hill 5, Madeline Anderson. Their driver, Kayoko Inagawa. And Spirit A. On hill 1, they have Catherine Mondoa. Hill 2, Rochelle Brown. Hill 3, Iris Stegman. Hill 4, Mayoa Asinoo. And Hill 5, Alex Moy. And their driver, Shalina Jail Woody.
1 minute.
1 minute here until the start of this first women's final race. Again, Spirit trying to put up a little bit better time here, try and secure themselves a spot in the top 3 in what could be one of their best race days in decade.
I wouldn't go so far as a decade. I would definitely say at least the past 5 years.
I would say this is Spirit coming back from the end of the pneumatic era. That's the last time they were really competitive.
Yeah.
And it's great to see the effort and the results.
Under 30 seconds here till the start of this, the first heat of women's finals. There are going to be 4 finals heats. Top 6 get trophies. Is that how it works?
Top 4 for women, 6 for men.
Top 4 get trophies. So trying to be in that top half of things here.
Now we're looking for Fringe A. They had a 23-second hill 1 time. So anything sub 23 seconds will definitely be an improvement for them. We're going to look
10,
for that.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, set.
Here they are, 2 teams off to start things here.
Lindsay Kincaid is definitely keeping up with Spirit A.
Spirit A starting to make a bit of separation here in the second half of Hill 2, but SDCC putting up a pretty good fight, and that could cause some interesting antics in the free roll if they maintain this level of distance.
In previous years, I would agree, but Spirit's really rolling well this year. I think if Spirit gets in first, they're going to stay in first.
Yeah. And it looks like right here that Hill 2's getting away, getting a little after it.
Not a great push for Spirit.
Grabbed the push bar there a little bit, took some of that momentum out as they go into the free roll.
Which is a drawback for when you're a Hill 2 pusher. I remember when I pushed Hill 2, you want to keep the momentum, or do you want to slow it down just enough to get a good shove and give it a lot more speed? So there is a drawback to it. I think her decision was a good decision, but it's her decision. We'll see what happens with their times.
It's better to get a push than to miss one completely. Even if it's a weak one, you're going to have more speed at the top of the hill, and the speed at the top of the hill is going to affect how fast you can go at the bottom.
Right, Spirit coming through, followed closely. Going up. Taking a turn. Spirit, nice turn in. Little slide, but through. SDC also through, catching a little bit on the rollout due to the slide by Spirit.
Let's see where this roll up goes.
Let's say 7 windows. Well, she got blown away.
All right.
Oh, sorry, I was watching the wrong pusher, wrong buggy. Good pickups on both, actually. Sorry.
I'll say Spirit A had a fantastic pickup. She didn't lose any momentum. She grabbed it right when she needed to be. And that was almost near perfect transition between the 3-4.
And she had an absolutely great rollout for that push, not being the best one we've seen.
And here we can kind of see an A team separating themselves, you know, almost neck and neck coming out of the shoot turn right there. And Spirit A really bringing some distance. In qualification, these two teams were about 10 seconds apart, you know, through the shoot. Much closer than that. And let's see how Spirit closes things out here with their Hill 5.
She needs to be a 27-second to do the same time as yesterday. And I think she was right about that time yesterday, about 27 seconds. So they're probably going to be looking about a 2:38 again, sticking to the same time, which 2:38 last year would have been good for second place.
Alex Moy coming across right here. Flying, putting everything into it. Hill 5 on Raceday, getting that hand on the push bar. 2:37.78.
26-second Hill 5.
Wow.
He was motoring. They did shed a fair amount of speed down here in the chute, not with a big slide, but a long, gradual slide between, say, the stripes and the apex of the turn. That probably cost them a little bit, but a heck of a performance to drop some time despite giving up some here in the chute.
I think their Hill 3 pickup, as well as their transitions between 3-4 and 4-5, them being so coordinated actually dropped them, I think, a whole second on their back hills.
Absolutely. And they had a great transition on Hill 2 as well. But even if you took that slide and everything out of it, I think the best time we could have realistically seen them put up today would have been like the low 2:36 range. So they didn't lose all that much, which is a good sign.
Yeah, they shed about a second on yesterday. SDCC picked up a couple seconds there. So, you know, we'll see how everything stacks up there. You know, Fringe A yesterday rolled a 2:36.9. Or no, sorry, Spirit A picked up a second there.
Yeah.
I apologize. Fringe A rolled a 2:36.9. They're the team they're looking to maybe leapfrog, and Fringe A will be the squad in the first lane coming up here in this second women's heat. They'll be along with CIAB, potentially pretty competitive here too. CIAB rolled a 2:47 yesterday. Fringe A 2:36.9, as we mentioned. Do you think it's possible for Fringe A to maybe jump over CIAA? CIAA was a couple seconds faster than them. What potential do you think Fringe has in this race?
I think Fringe's front hills are what's holding them back. CIA had almost a 21-second. They had a sub 21-second hill 1 for women's. Compared to Fringe A. Fringe A had a 23-second flat hill 1. 3 whole seconds on a hill 1. It's not gonna. If she drops even a second, you're talking about like 2 whole seconds. That's gonna separate them just on front hills alone. And both buggies being on par, as well as mechanics and wheels and everything, I think their front hills are what's gonna take them back.
And in years past, you would say 3 seconds. Fringe is going to make that up in the free roll. That's not the case anymore. CIA is just as fast as Fringe in the free roll. Maybe Fringe gains like a half second or so on them, but
5-minute warning. 5 minutes.
Not to mention, depending on if you get a solid hill 2 push off, a good line, and then a good hill 3 pickup. We've seen that teams are losing so much time on bad hill 3 pickups.
Yeah.
So something can happen on hill 3 today if there's a bad pickup, or we can have trouble in the chute like we saw yesterday. So stuff can happen, but if all things being equal, I don't see Fringe surpassing CIA. I think CIA's got it down pat as far as women's. They've got the relationship between their pushers. They know each other, and they've got solid buggies and solid drivers.
I think Fringe has more to gain than CIA does today. I think that they had more mistakes on the hills than CIA did, but I still do agree with you. I think that CIA will squeeze out ahead of them for that second place spot.
Yeah, and one thing we don't know is how hard was each team trying yesterday. And it was clearly predicted to be nice today. They were pretty clear they were going to make the finals. So do you go all out and risk not being here today, or do you hold back just a little? And who held back? How much? Combine that with who's going to execute better, And I think the entire mix of 2 through 5 is up for grabs here. You saw Spirit improve from a better pickup on Hill 3, despite having maybe losing a little bit in the chute. And that's just one example. I imagine, as you say, Fringe had a lot to pick up. But who knows what CIA left on the table yesterday and what they have in the bag. It's going to be interesting.
And we'll find out very shortly. Again, this heat here, Fringe A, CIA B, then CIAA Fishing Club A, and then SDCA, SDC B. So interesting matchups coming up here.
Yeah.
Do you think you're mentioning, right, Fringe A, their
3-minute
first
warning.
hills
3 minutes.
were kind of their slower part. Do you think CIAA can cause them any trouble maybe coming into the free roll, or, excuse me, CIAB in this matchup, or there's still separation there?
No, there's a separation. With CIAB, their Hill 1s, they're good. We didn't have accurate times yesterday, but I don't fully suspect a B team Hill 1, Hill 2, and then free roll, at least to the stop sign, being close enough to Fringe to actually being a problem. Being a problem means you're neck and neck. Having at least one buggy length between you is still good. It's safe. They're able to do what they need to do. Plus, going through the chute turn, you lose a lot of momentum. Both buggies do, depending on the lanes. But giving them a little bit of a gap, we don't want to see problems like Fringe and SIGEP men's had yesterday, or when SIGEP A crashed, the buggies had little time to adjust. So you want to see some separation, but close isn't like necessarily a bad thing.
All right, so
One
let's go ahead.
notable expectation in this heat is that CIAB had what I will call the shoot turn of the day yesterday. They took a much more aggressive line than any other buggy, came way inside tight to the inner bales, shortened the course, and kept momentum despite being so tight, and literally in their heat almost caught up on Hill 3. So I fully expect Fringe to be ahead, but I expect CIAB to be sniffing at them right around the 5th window or so.
Let's go ahead and introduce the rosters here, see who'll be doing the sniffing. First, CIAB team. On Hill 1, Jean Zhang. Hill 2, Elise Milligan. Hill 3, Natalie Hong. Hill 4, Sarah Wingett. And Hill 5, Amy Hung. Their driver, Ariana Daly. And for Fringe A, on Hill 1,
1 minute
Z
warning,
Chet.
1
Hill
minute.
2, Nadia Florman. Hill 3, Sloan Macklin. Hill 4, Sarah Tracy. And Hill 5, Michaela Vicino. Their driver, Jilly Rosen. Very experienced driver for Fringe.
Jilly Rosen's been A-team since her sophomore year.
Yeah.
She's been driving Bisa now for the last 3 years, I believe, and was put into their fastest buggies really from the get-go. She was rolling in Banya. That was the first buggy that she rolled in, and that was one of Fringe's, beginning buggies of their really fast fleet.
Yeah.
And she moved over to Beacon later in that year, and now is in Bisa, their A-team.
With Bisa being a little bit older, but I think what was happening was when they designed it, I think her measurements were the closest to how Bisa was constructed. So we talk about what's good and what's bad about buggy builds. You want a buggy built
10,
to
9,
the driver.
8,
So whatever's closest.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, set.
Here we go. The two squads are off. Fringe trying to hold on to a top 3 time.
Oh man, CIAB's making a mess of things.
Yeah, but here comes the separation.
Let's see right here on that 1-2 transition. CIAB not quite going away. And it looks like that 1-2 shove there. You can kind of see that A-team, that strength and that separation. Now a few buggy spaces between the two of them. And Fringe getting a lot of space here into that Hill 2 shove into the free roll.
Now the Hill 1 shaved off a whole second. She got about a 22-second, maybe a little less on the Hill 1. But Hill 2's shove off did not look as hard as it could have been.
They had about a 3-second lead going over the sidewalk there, the crosswalk. We'll see if CIA can make something out of this.
Gaining a lot of
Looks like
separation
Bisa's
there.
pulling away.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about Bisa. Bisa being such a good buggy, it's going to pull away on the free roll.
104 stop sign time.
I believe we get Spirit at a 103 at the stop sign.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Fringe taking the upper transition flag. Rolling nicely. Here comes falling Buggy taking it. Shoot flag. Nice entry. A little bit of wandering, but smoothly through. CIA. Very tight, very aggressive. This time it cost her with a little bit of a fishtail.
Wow, look at that roll up.
So there'll be no sniffing of the
there's a
ether.
free pusher.
She didn't get toasted.
No, she didn't get toasted this time, but she caught it a little late.
Fringe now on their back heels, trying to see can they shave off a few precious seconds. Hold on to a top 3 position. 3 to 4.
I would have liked to have seen the Fringe driver coming up into Hill 3 be a little tighter in there on the curb. I think she left it a little wide, made the course a little longer for herself, and may have cost him a little bit of time there.
Yeah. There's nothing really much more to say. That's a perfect way to describe it. Although her Hill 5's pushing it.
Michaela taking it here on Hill 5. Very impressive yesterday and continues just motoring here. One of the hardest hills because you're just blasting forward.
Now, if she can push a 26, they're going to be right up there with Spirit at a 37.
Here, get a little picture-in-picture. It's going to be very close. Reaching for that push by
Fantastic time.
2:35.98.
Way to go, Michaela. That was a... She picked that at an 11, and they were at a 25. That was a 24-second Hill 5. For women, that is honking fast.
That is fast.
Wow.
That was a very impressive pickup on Hill 3 there by Fringe A. CIA B actually got it wrong both ways. Got ahead of it and then ended up getting blown away. Hard to do that.
Impressive, though, by Fringe A. They cut about a second off from yesterday. And so they're very close now to CIA. CIA yesterday at 2:34.
Yeah.
So pressure is on them now to maintain their spot, lest they potentially fall out of second, maybe first, depending on what we see from SDC coming up. But CIA A, Fish A in this third heat of the women's finals. Kind of interesting. I think we thought we'd see a bit more out of Fishing Club yesterday than a 2:45.
Now, I was going to say, Fish A put up a 21.3 Hill one time, coupled with the fact they're going against CIA with a 20.84. It's a 1 second gap. Could they pull away? Yes. Could they be a little bit faster and be on par coming over the top of the hill? That could very well happen. With Pika's new buggy, or Fishing Club's new buggy, I don't know, I completely forget how to pronounce it, but their new buggy, RD 2016, is a great buggy. I mean, heck, they replaced Banshee with it for a reason. It's a fast buggy, especially coupled with experienced driver. Couple things here and there, they can pick up a second or two.
Could be interesting going over the hill. And how might that affect CIA if things are close?
I think it'll push them to go faster. No pun intended. You're gonna want the competition. If you're racing neck and neck to someone who's close to you, you're gonna run faster. If someone's that close to you, safety, although, comes into a big thing. We looked at teams yesterday being so neck and neck that it caused safety issues. Things got kind of jumbled with that. So that's the drawback to having a close race. The good part about it is you're going to see these pushers run a little bit faster. I mean, we saw a second lost with Fringe, but that was because of better pickups and faster running times, and I think Day 2 really brings that out. So having a neck-and-neck heat coupled with Day 2s, I see a very close race. Plus, CIA is the returning champion. You want that trophy again.
And if you're CIA, you want to catch the big fish, and you want to get up there and, really be competing with the top teams there, and, going up against Pika and Fishing Club, that's a good target to be going up against, to try to push them closer to that SDC time. I don't think we're going to get there, but let's see how close CIA can get. Maybe make it a little bit closer than what we saw yesterday.
You get 2 more fishing jokes the rest of the day, and that's it.
Well, you got to use them up right now. There's no fishing club in the men's heats. This is the last we'll see of the fishing club.
And
So
I'm nowhere near my limit on fishing jokes.
I don't think I have the ability to tell you what to do there, Mark.
I don't know. We got to
got
reel
like 20
you
years
guys
on me.
in. Oh, man. All right, let's go ahead and introduce the squads who are going to be pushing out here. First, for Fishing Club, the Hill 1 is Katie Liston. Hill 2, Danae Paparis. Hill 3, Robin Song. Hill 4, Liz Chang. And Hill 5, Rachel Gomez. The driver, Anna Zhang. Yeah. For CIAA, on Hill 1, Sophie Zimmerman. Hill 2, Hannah Linus. Hill 3, Ling Tu. Hill 4, Elim Zhang. Hill 5, Catherine Luo. And the driver, Amy Ho.
Now, a lot of things you want to say, Connor, we can talk about pushing techniques. I think the best thing that you're going to want to see from a Hill 1, Hill 2 transition is an early transition. Hill 1 is the steepest hill on the course comparatively to Hill 3, but you're going from a dead stop instead of catching a Hill 3 coming through the chute. I think the earlier the transition, the better. So if you get a fast Hill 1 and they can get a shove off, especially with a good pickup from Hill 2, you can see them drop maybe a full second. And maybe Fish wants to do that because they have the chance of beating CIA.
Yeah. And in recent years, you've seen Pika, when they've been out here, teaching their pushers on Hill 1, shove the buggy off early. Our buggies are going to roll, so if you give it a good shove, it's going to get up there into the Hill 2 transition. And Hill 2 is not nearly as long as the Hill 1. The Hill 1, by the time she's up here, she's exhausted.
Yeah.
Guys and girls. And in years past, the trend was push the buggy off early. I feel like in recent years, some teams have been getting away from that. Maybe they're putting a really strong pusher on 1 and putting a little bit slower pusher on Hill 2 just because it's the shorter hill. So they want to have that faster pusher going. But I think that the really strong teams, what you see is they push off well before that transition line, and the Hill 2 picks up in stride right after the transition line once that buggy is fully in the transition zone.
Right. Well, you get a problem with, we saw it with Spirit. If the buggy gets just far enough away from you on Hill 2, you're going to have to kind of slow down the buggy and then get a shove. By picking it up a little bit early, you get to keep that buggy just in range, just like on Hill 5. You want to keep it just in range that it's at speed, but you can get a good shove off right at the end, right when you're about to hit the crosswalk. So I think it helps to get an early pickoff just because they can keep it. A later push-off means, heck, you get a stronger pusher on Hill 1, it might get just far enough away from them that it's just like, oh, there goes down the hill. You're using your fingertips. I remember it happened to me in 2011. We were both Hill 2s.
Yeah.
It's just, you don't want to fingertip it down. It's like you want to come right from the chest.
And I've seen it before, too, where if you have a really, really strong pusher on Hill 1 and he goes all the way through the transition and then pushes off into Hill 2 there, that buggy, you may never catch up to it again. It may be gone.
Especially with Pika buggies, being how good that they are, that could very well happen.
Just 1 minute till we get into this race, so a lot of potential excitement here on the top hill. Something to be looking for. Again, CIAA, last year's champions. Slower than SDC this year, at least from what we've seen from SDC, but want to at least try and shoot for that number 2 spot. Get in that top spot because you never know what can happen on finals day. Very important race here for CIA. Fringe jumped up their time a little bit, nipping at their heels. We'll see if CIA can deliver. They certainly did last year.
I'm expecting CIA to pick up some time here. Their B team, despite losing time here in the chute and losing time on Hill 3, still went faster. So I expect good things out of CIA. There's a challenge. Pika's buggy has the smaller wheels, and those are designed for pretty much one thing,
10,
making push
9,
easy.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, set.
And here we go. They are off. Second to final heat here. Fish A looking pretty strong on this Hill 1. Neck and neck with CIA. Both women pushing themselves hard here. Who can get that little advantage going into the free roll?
Sophie beat her.
Wow, at about the exact same time, but CIA a little bit further of a shove, and they're getting some separation here into that Hill 2.
Pretty good push, early push, and they're in the free roll at a 32. That's about 4 seconds faster than both Fringe and Spirit.
Wow. Both teams very quick there, but a great job by CIA to get that separation after Hill 1.
You saw the determination in her eyes. She was pushing through that as hard as she could.
I'm pretty sure Pika's female Hill 1 just dropped a solid like half second on that Hill 1.
And CIA still beat her.
Oh, so yeah.
Wow.
1 minute
59
stop
second.
sign.
And 102.5 for Fish A. Pretty good right there.
All right, CIA taking the upper transition flag, Pika taking their outer position, rolling down towards the chute. CIA turning in a little early, making it, hold on, smoothly through.
Great turn.
Fish coming in, little slide, but not much. Carrying good speed, they're gonna head up to Hill 3. Let's see the pickups.
And she came in tight there. Both of them did, going up into Hill 3.
See that transition.
Decent
Ling Zhu
pickup
picking
there.
it up there for CIA. Only about a 2 shove Hill 3 right there. A lot of momentum going with them. Transition into 4. Fish Club now transitions into 4.
Now, just for reference, that 1 minute stop sign time, a lot of men's B teams would be really happy with that, and they're doing that in their women's A. They are smoking fast on the front hills. Let's see what their back hills can do.
Now, how good do you think Equinox is as a build? I mean, we're talking about like how fast that buggy is. I think it was right out. It was a 2015 buggy. So you're talking about probably one of the best buggies that CIA's put out in a while.
4 to 5 transition here. She's flying, looking like they could have a very, very nice time here.
I'm thinking about a 229, 230, which would be about 4 or 5 seconds faster than yesterday.
Coming across here, Catherine Lowell pushing across here, trying to get that last ounce of effort. What time will they get? Hands on the push bar, 231.09.
Wow.
Nice.
And that's another record time for CIA's women's team, which they've now set every single time they've rolled for the last 2 years.
Wow, 242 for Fish Club, so they cut off about 3 seconds. CIA cuts off about 4 seconds there.
Yeah.
Congrats to CIA.
Yeah, and cutting back to that point about Equinox, I think it is their best build. They took everything that they learned on Impulse and improved it for Icarus, and they went back and they improved it again for Equinox. And then they felt, that they had hit sort of their limit with that design and went back to a reverse strike this year for Tempest. So we'll see which direction they decide to continue in. They've got 2 very fast buggies in Icarus and Equinox now. So they can experiment a little bit with their builds and try to get something that may even be faster than those buggies and see where they can get with it.
So, the biggest determinant for buggy speed is wheels. And at this point, pretty much every organization has found goodly wheels. And now it gets down to, for an organization like CIA, that really prior to last year didn't have them, now they can experiment with buggy design and try to eke out that last difference in speed. Fringe has had good wheels for a while, and it's very clear they figured out how to get the most out of them. Same with SDC. They're clearly maximizing what those wheels can do. You look at SIGAP, they tried something different this year with these little wheels. Not so great, but they're still learning. So that's why buggy is cool. You can always learn, you can try new stuff, and there's always next year.
Right. Also coupled with the fact that technology advances every so often to the point where it might not be good wheels this year, but next year they come out with some new polyurethane wheels, some new compound, and it's just like, it didn't really work last year, but this new compound this year, treated correctly with heat, maybe some other chemicals, boom. Go right through the chute. Maybe next couple of years, new wheels might be a new course record.
Yeah, and you can talk about Pika very much with this because they do a lot of experimenting with wheels. They were the first team to go to these little wheels, these smaller, about 110, 120 millimeter wheels from the standard 180, 190 that everybody's been rolling on since probably the 90s.
Yeah.
And when these wheels first came out, Pika was by far the fastest rolling team. Now, on the bigger wheels, everybody else has caught up to them. CIA, right about the same speed as Pike. In fact, in that heat, I would say that CIA pulled away from Pike on the free roll. SDC now has gotten, new wheels. They went to black wheels for a while. They're back on white wheels this year. So they're experimenting with some different compounds. They seem to have found something that's gotten them back ahead of Pica in the free roll. And Fringe is continuing with their green wheels. You know, we don't know how much they're experimenting, how much of those are new wheels, or how much of them are the leftovers from before. But, you know, even Fringe is now starting to come back in their free rolls a little bit and get back up to the top where they are always been.
Let's just run through the standings real quick before we go into our final heat. Currently in first place, CIAA there. Their official time, a 231.063. Still very nice. Fringe A in second place, 235.937. Third place, Spirit A, 237.712. Fourth place, Fish A, 242. SDCC, 245. And CIA B, 251. But of course, the big story in this heat, SDCA. Can they shave a second or so off, set a course record on the women's side?
Again, we're looking at 225.60. Them rolling out, I believe it was a 226.6. So you're talking about in 1 full second. Could that be done? It's hard. It's hard with STC. STC has already pretty much optimized the little intricacies where other teams were failing yesterday with like bad hill 3 pickups or little, spins in the chute, stuff like that. They've got good pushers. They've got one of the best buggy on the course. So it's going to be really hard for them to shave off a second when they've had a almost near perfect roll yesterday. So to shave off a whole complete second might be tough. I think if you're going to see, that's going to be the effort, an extra effort on every single hill to add up to it. So
I'll take the opposite of you. I think they're going to drop 3 seconds on us and set the new record. Every other female buggy today has gone significantly quicker. There's nothing holding them back.
And one interesting factor about this heat, you have 2 SDC teams out there, SDCA and SDCB. What does that do for the 2 teams, or even just for your preparation?
As far as preparation goes, it's not that bad, but what it does is you only have so much space in your truck tent area. So what you're doing is you're creating this little cluster of several mechanics, the drivers getting in, everyone making sure everything's working. It gets really complicated in there. So having 2 teams that are running right next to each other really complicates things, especially when you're going to put 2 SDC teams that could finish 1-2. So it's bad. And do you say do we want to sacrifice B to make sure A is perfect? Yeah. Or do we want to make sure that both teams are as fast as possible so that we can take 1-2? What do we want to do? That's a decision left up to the mechanics about how good they are. And that comes down to how regimented the mechanics are with, how well their teams are run.
Let's go ahead and run down those teams. We'll answer those questions in just a couple minutes here. First, the SDCB team on Hill 1, Mary St. John. Hill 2, Caitlin Smith. Hill 3, Alex Semi. Hill 4, Bridget Quirk. And Hill 5, Mega Singh. The driver, Elizabeth G. And for SDCA, Hill 1, Mary Garrett. Hill 2, Lisa Murphy. Hill 3, Kajay Jones. Hill 4, Jackie Beautiful. And Hill 5, Jen Mayberger. The driver, Anna Black.
Now, one point on the way that SDC organizes their team, I believe, is that they have actual teams for each buggy. So the A team, they have their own mechanics who are on that buggy. They have the B team, they have their own mechanics, and they each have their own setup. They have their own places to treat wheels, heat wheels, their own tools, everything that they need. So you don't have, on some other teams, all of the mechanics are worried about all of the teams. They're split up. They have 3 people where they can go and just focus on their buggy. So really right now you have 2 teams rolling against each other that are on the same team, but in a way they're separate teams. Yeah. Because who's on Malice is not worried about what's going on with Avarice, and who's on Avarice is not worried about what's going on with Malice.
And that helps with you when you're creating a team with the depth that STC has. You're able to do that. With teams that don't have, the mechanic roster, it's hard to do that. So you don't run into those problems.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
here goes the final heat of women's finals here in Raceday 2016. SDCA perhaps on the precipice of history. Can they get under a 2:25, set a new course record? The men already did it, and the women flying out here to start.
Very close between the two teams. She was right there at about a 20-second hill one.
Yeah, it looked about high 20 seconds, probably just under a 21 second. She ran a 20.3 yesterday.
15 minutes until men's
CAA
heat 1.
beat SDCA to the top of the hill. But I think that SDC has a lot more talent on the back hills. Their free rolls will be about the same. So CIA, though, very impressive front hills there.
Coming along into the free roll here. Fair bit of separation. Average just cruising right there, coming up to that stop sign. Let's see what we're going to get there. 59 seconds.
It was about the exact same time as CIA.
And a 103 on their B team, which is right where Spirit
SDC
was.
taking the upper transition flag. Second buggy taking the upper transition. Nice turn in, a little late, but nice. Little slide, but not much. Carrying good speed through the chute. Well, big slide for the B team. Wagging that tail around. It's magnificent.
And here we go, the pickup into Hill 3. A lot of momentum coming out of that chute turn.
Good pickup by Hill 3.
Jay Jones right there on the Hill 3. Just a couple shoves right there in the transition into 4.
I just love seeing the rollouts. It's something we have not really been seeing much the last couple of years. It was only, a handful of windows, but seeing the buggies rolling back up to the plug again is really exciting.
And you see dedication, intensity right there on Jackie's face. They're pushing it for this record. Not quite sure if we're going to have that level of speed going to really come down to this Hill 5, transitioning now to Jen Mayberger.
She's going to have to run a 25 flat in order to get the record. We've already saw that from Fringe. It's doable, but I don't think that speed is even close to Fringe A's.
Fringe A's pusher, I think, is the fastest on 5 this year.
Pushing through right here. Approaching, the clock hits 222, 223, 224.
Bar.
Bar. She had the push bar?
You know what? We've that has been an issue over the past couple years about.
I think it was a miss.
The angle. So what we're going to do is, I know these angles are kind of bad with the way.
We got to get a replay
Yeah,
there.
we're going to have to get the official time from sweepstakes. I think during the break, I'm going to run over to the tent, see if I can see it, get a preliminary view.
Yeah,
But-
let's see if we can get a replay of that.
But did
up
their
here. That
quest
could
for the
be huge.
record just cost them a trophy?
Could very well have. Would have been a 225.8, which
Right. I don't think it would have. It wouldn't have gotten.
The black record.
So we're taking a look here, trying to get that replay up there. This could be very interesting.
Now that being said, the reason why we have the head judge, the sweepstakes chairman, standing right there is they're going to watch it. But we also have a fantastic timing system with like nanosecond.
I think it's actually the same system they use in some sort of auto racing.
Yeah, they
They've
do.
got the
They do
technology
auto
for
racing.
that.
They do ski racing. They do a lot of things where minutia time is needed between competitors.
And our friends with CMUTV working on getting that replay there. A big shout out to them, WRCT 88.3, for making all of this possible here, getting the sounds and the visuals. Just waiting on that replay, a very important moment, because if that push bar is missed, they're done.
They
CIA repeats. And this is why you have the races. Obviously, a killer time on day one. If that was complete, a killer time there as well. They cut off 0.7 of a second. Not quite that full second, but that's still, pretty incredible right there.
I think
Just trying
that
to
would
get
have been the
replay.
second fastest women's time ever at a 225.8.
Just looking
See, I
to get that
have
replay.
records.
Working on that replay, just getting that worked out in the system.
I
We
will
will
say
have that.
Malice back in 2009, according to BAABuggy.org.
All right, and here we go. In slow motion, hand reaching out.
No.
No.
Missed it.
She
That
missed
is
the
a
bar.
miss on the push bar by
CIA
SDC.
champions. 2
You're-
years in a row.
Oh my, wow.
That's
She had her hand on the bar. Why did she take it off? I can't figure it out.
Wow.
Look at that.
as it crosses.
What an agonizing way to go out for SDC. But that means your 2016 Women's Sweepstakes Champions are CIA.
With a new team
again,
record, too.
Again, that is unofficial. That's the booth. Official times will come from sweepstakes later, and official records once everything's been reviewed. Because again, we are not sweepstakes.
It is a fairly safe
It's a
margin, it looks.
it's a fairly safe
That would put
bet.
your second place.
I would start buying the champagne,
That would
Jerry.
put your second place, Fringe
Ben
A, at
Matzke,
236.9, and in third place, Spirit A.
I want to say congrats to all the teams all around. Fantastic women's pushers this year. CIA repeating again with fantastic times, shaving off time, which was impressive. Big shout out to Spirit. I know they're right in front of the booth. The diversity, I guess the obstacles that they've had to overcome.
Adversity?
Adversity, that's the word I want to use. The adversity that they've had to overcome over the past couple of years. They've had the stigmatism of spinning out. They've had the stigmatism of, I guess, a little bit of unorganization. They've been DQ'd for like minor things like 5-second violation. They have come over those humps. They've gotten better, and now they're the team that we remember beating Pike, being the top of the leaderboard. They've turned themselves around. And CIA, yeah, now you're at the top of the leaderboard. Watch out for Spirit. That's gonna be the new thing. And SDC's again still there. And we don't want to ever discount SDC, but it's like, all right, now it's CIA versus Spirit versus SDC for top of women's.
What a crazy finish right there. I still can't believe it. You know, we talked about SDC, and, you know, we kind of harped on yesterday. SDC doesn't generally make mistakes. You know, of everyone, they come out, they're the most polished, mechanical, machine-like. It's a beautiful machine to watch when it's fully functioning. And, you know, you really have to feel for that Hill 5 there.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the agony of it all. So much preparation going into that. You know, with her hand on 0.2 of a second away from a record, you can understand that intensity to push for that final motion right there. And, you know, you hate to see anyone lose, but especially in that fashion.
No, absolutely. It reminds me of yesterday of Fishing Club. Fishing Club coming off of a 2015 finish where they missed the push bar. I think it was the same pusher too. And coming off of a great time. I mean, heck, they had a 2:10 time yesterday with a great buggy, and then having a hamstring injury and him missing the push bar. Just horrible. It's demoralizing for a team, and then you have something like STC happening where you've done so much prep, you've done so much work, mechanicking and prepping your pushers and prepping your drivers. To have something little come out like that, it's sad.
But congratulations once more, CIA. 2 years in a row. Pretty incredible. You know, if a few years back, CIA was going to be a 2P. But it's a testament to the amount of work they've done. And yet, you know, still maintaining the spirit of CIA. You know, one of the most enjoyable teams to watch out there. Congratulations to them. We move on now, about under 10 minutes to the men's races. I don't know if you guys want to take a little break. We can start breaking it down.
Yeah, I can grab some coffee.
Okay, we'll take a 3-minute break right here from the booth, then we'll break down all the men's action coming to you. Men's Heat 1 coming up in just a few minutes here on WRCT Pittsburgh and CMUTV. Wow.
Test. All right, I'm still on.
Oh, 16. Oh, good, we're fine. For some reason I thought she said 6 or like... I caught it.
5 minutes. Watch out the street for the truck. There's the street for the truck. Test. Welcome to Sweepstakes 2016
1 minute.
Men's Finals coming up in about 1 minute. This is Mark Estes transmitting from the chute. It's a magnificent day here in Pittsburgh, the land of jumbo bologna. About 200 people out here in the chute. There's about 3 times as many as yesterday. If you're hearing this on RCT, get out of your house and head for Shenley Park because you're missing a fabulous day here on the course. It is really magnificent.
Yeah, unmute them. Mic 3. All
just
right,
spotted
we are
Philly.
back with
10,
Carnegie Mellon
9,
Buggy broadcast.
7,
Races
6,
starting.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, set.
And we're off. Racers coming up on hill 1.
All right, we had a missed time, but here we go with Siget B pushing up hill 2. Alp needs to get a good shove off here. Here we go. Great job, Alp. Good hill 2 time.
Kind of a late delivery there, but a good delivery.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're looking for today is going to be a sub 52 time today from any team looking to break 210.
Back on the mic here, a little bit of miscommunication.
Luckily enough, I was close there, Will. But here we go. Here's Hydra coming down the hill. 53 seconds, going to be a good time. Hopefully the back hills, being as good as they are going to make up a few seconds here. I'm looking for a 2:10 time, probably
Buggy's taking the
2:11.
top transition flag, rolling nicely. Gap pretty constant. Taking the shoot flag. So Gap turns in. CIA taking a much tighter line, looking to catch up some time, hitting the grate, but can't get some speed. Oh no!
Oh no!
Sigap just blocked the steering and headed right to the curb, past the bales. Buggy's on his side, hit pretty solidly there. CIA carrying on, pick it up on hill 3, way up.
Mark, do you know anything that happened with Siget?
It looked like the steering locked, turning to the right, and just went right into the curb about 15 feet past the last hay bale. Got up in the air because it hit so hard, flipped on its left side, and didn't roll or anything, just kind of up in the air and landed.
Wow, you hate to see that. CIAB here, trying to just close out this race. As soon as we know more from the chute, we'll bring that to you there. This B team, though, pushing with intensity.
Now, anyone that's on the course, that's Sophie driving. She's a Tri-Delta. All the best. I hope she's okay. That's the scariest thing to see, especially from being a Sig-Up, being a chair.
216.66.
Yeah, and if everybody could just give them some space down in the chute too. I know a lot of people are very curious to see if she's okay, but please just give EMS some space. They have a lot of stress they have to deal with right now, so if everybody could just back as far away from the buggy as possible, please do that and just let EMS do their job.
As soon as we know more from down there, we will report that.
Right, they've turned the buggy back into its normal orientation, and they look like they're opening the hatch. That's all I could see from here.
Oh yeah.
Looking to get more on that when we can. Nice time out of CIAB, the 216. Looking at that compared to their preliminary qualifying time. They actually lost a couple seconds there. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Given everything. Again, as soon as we have more.
I'm thinking they'll probably get a re-roll on that for the situation.
Well, that being said, you have to look at the situation and when the situation happened. I think by the time she took the outside lane to pass Hydra was already on the inside and then made whatever decision and made whatever course alteration. For those who in the course talk about being re-rolls and what grants a re-roll and what doesn't, a re-roll is any safety implication on a driver that's out of
Driver's
control.
out, walking. Looks like she's okay. They're putting the buggy back in the follow truck.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So, looks scary moment, but looks like she's fine. Yep,
Thank
getting in the
God.
follow lead truck right now. Scary, but not so bad of an injury.
This has been a gut-wrenching weekend for Sigat.
Yeah.
Buggy. Really glad to hear Sophie's all right there. But just another in a string of.
We have a hold, 6-minute hold.
Events. And I think we have a replay here. Driver is going into the lead truck. We do have a confirmation. Sophie's all right. Just take a look at this in slow-mo, see what happened.
See, right here they go, you see how he goes for the pass. Right here. And then something, I don't know what happens. She makes this kind of beeline right on the inside. And hits the curb.
It is a testament, though, to the safety technology put into these buggies. Just as far as we know, no major injuries or anything like that.
Yeah, looking at that crash, I'd have to give a shout out to Tom Wood and Lou Conley from CIA, along with some other alumni who back in the 80s wrote these new safety rules. And if you weren't around then, Buggy was a different beast. And crash protection was pretty much lacking. Safety in the trucks was pretty much laughed at. And they stepped in. It was very unpopular because they ended up being the man of which they were changing how we did buggy. And yet, because of their hard work back then, we have safer buggies today. So I tip my hat to those alumni who did the right thing back then and made buggy possible, because it could have gone away.
Absolutely. No one ever realizes where these things really come from, or like, oh, it's just been around for close to 100 years. Not really realizing that people behind the scenes at different points in history have made decisions that could have really impacted how races were, and they could have ended, 50 years ago, but it was the choice of people to make the right decision at the time. And now look at it. You have wheels that are now 3-wheeled instead of 4, and they're made out of carbon fiber instead of like rare pieces of aluminum that you found on the street. Heck, it was only a couple years ago that we had aluminum frame buggies. Now look at it. They're all carbon fiber made. Connie, maybe you want to talk about how buggies are actually comprised.
So every buggy on the course these days follows a pretty standard design. You have a big hatch in the front. You've got core material, which is some sort of lightweight paper or foam-based sheet. You lay that out over a mold with some carbon fiber, the core material between layers of carbon fiber, and then you fill the carbon fiber with a resin and makes a really strong fiber-reinforced plastic. And that makes a really stiff and a very lightweight structure. So these days with the buggies, we're looking at the competitive buggies are all under 20 pounds without a driver in it. And years ago, that wouldn't even have been, considered possible. Even one of the first composite buggies, Quantum Leap, which was the Spirit buggy that held the course record at a 2:06 from '88 until 2008 when it got beaten by SDC and then Pica. That buggy, without a driver in it, was upwards of 50 pounds, made out of straight carbon fiber, no core material. A lot of heavy components still in it, bigger wheels, and now they're just getting smaller and lighter and honestly stronger too because of the advances in technology.
Absolutely.
I will defend my technology. I had an all carbon buggy built in as early as '85 that did not weigh 50 pounds. It didn't weigh much more than the buggies weigh today, and it rolled the plug. Thank you.
Throwing it back. This next heat coming up, kind of interesting. It's two fringe squads up against one another. We see a couple matchups like this, but this one is going to be Fringe A and Fringe C. Fringe women's A team got a second place finish earlier. Good to see that out of them. I believe their men currently sitting in fourth coming into today, but only about a half second behind Spirit A. What do you think? Do you think they have it in them to jump up, maybe move into the top 3 spot? 2 seconds behind CIA, half a second behind Spirit A.
I think they have it in. They have a solid Hill 1 time with about a 16.7 Hill 1. I think with an earlier transition, a good shove off on Hill 2, and good transitions on the back hills, they'll definitely pick up a second or 2. Fringe has the capability of doing that, as well as solid buggies. Connor, are they running Bisa's?
Bisa's A team.
Yeah, Bisa's A team. So we saw Bisa rolling perfectly this morning for women's A. All she has to do is do it again, and they're going to have a great time.
Take a look at it here. It's a very crowded leaderboard. If you look at the times from yesterday, obviously SDCA men, a whole different ballpark. You know, they were set a record 2:02 and a half, but then things very close between second and fourth. In second, CIAA had a 2:10. 0.05, Spirit AA 211.898, Fringe AA 212.461. So, you know, a little thing here or there, a little extra effort, you know, a sloppier pickup or a good pickup really could shuffle that leaderboard fairly significantly on the top half.
Right, and not to mention, we've seen an upset already with women's on a day 2 versus a day 1 time. So a lot of things can happen that we just don't expect. So, yeah, really anything can happen. I see Fringe coming out very strong today. They're going to put up a good time. I'm guessing 2:10 flat. That's going to be my bet.
And that would be their best time since, I believe, 2012, which was my freshman year. I believe the next year they were a 2:11 with a push bar DQ. And then the year after that, they were about a 2:14. And then they were about a 2:14 again last year as well. So.
I think 2011 with Bonsai had a sub 2:10.
2011,
Because
they were,
they won
you know,
that
2012,
year.
they were sub 210 as well. They were
Yeah.
207 that year, and then it was the next year, 2013, that they fell off.
I think it was 207. I think it was like maybe a 206, 207 with
It was
Bonsai.
a 205 with Bonsai in 11 when they had the free roll record.
Yeah, that's. By the way, shout out to Mike Mackin if he's on the course. He built Bonsai. Bonsai has a course record with a 49-second hill 1, or 49-second stop sign time, which is the course record. She was clocked going through the chute, going about 41 miles an hour. Wow. Yeah. She was quick.
Yeah.
Speed.
I think Becky Perkin.
Becky Peterkin, she is out there today.
Yeah.
And
Becky was driving. Fastest driver on the course.
And let's go ahead and meet the current driver. Let's get these rosters.
Go for it.
See who's going there. First, Fringe C in lane 2. Hill 1, Gordon Wissinger. Hill 2, Paul Hamersky. Hill 3, Brad Hodge. Hill 4, Sammy Passel. And Hill 5, Andrew Wissinger.
Well, real quick, Will, they're going to be using their B team pushers on this because their B team was disqualified yesterday for contact.
Oh.
So these are going to be their B team pushers.
Read the wrong roster. Well, hey, someone else got to hear their name. I don't know.
Well,
B
I
team.
think the pushers will depend on how they set up the rosters. You set your alternatives. You can't have a B pusher be an alternative on both A and C.
I'm being
So
told
might
it
be
is
a
their
weird
C
mix.
team.
It is their C team, so I was right. Anyways, Andrew Wissinger on Hill 5, Madison Scott the driver. Fringe A team going to be rolling out here on Hill 1, Che Gruber. Hill 2, Jacob Brooks. Hill 3, Paul Chow. Hill 4, Jake Sherless. And Hill 5, Taj Spinger. The driver, Gilly Rosen.
Now we talked about Fringe. Connor mentioned Fringe getting disqualified during yesterday's heat. Fringe took a very aggressive
1 minute
lane
warning,
in order
1
to pass, and during that passing event, they came in contact with Sigep, and the contact, though not being clean, or not being a clean pass, resulted in their disqualification.
It was refreshing to actually see that rule enforced. Right? It's there to make driving safe. You got to be cautious when you pass, and you pay the price when you're not.
And a lot of things is people don't realize it all comes down to sweepstakes to kind of make these judgments, and they're hard judgments to make. They're not always perfect. They're not always like clean and definite with like 1,000 pages of evidence, but it does come up to human discretion, whether Fringe agrees or not. It was a choice made, and I think it was the right choice.
Under 30 seconds here, both buggies on the course. I'm trying to just get set here. Again, Fringe qualifying in 4th place, but very close to the 2nd place time of
10,
CIAA.
9,
So we'll see
8,
what they can do to improve
7,
on their 212.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, set.
Here we go.
And for A team we have Bisa, and in C team we have Beacon.
At Hill 1, really powerful pushes, getting a lot of distance between him and the buggy right there.
Right. As long as he hits a sub,
Oh, that was a poor transition.
very poor transition.
A little bit of a miscommunication there.
They're in at about 28 on the front hills. That's not the best.
It's okay. It's not great. It's not optimal. What Fringe really needed was a solid. They had a solid hill 1. They needed a solid transition. That
Yeah,
did not
just
happen.
that
The hill
sloppy
one,
transition
yeah.
right there.
The hill 1 honestly should have just backed off. He pushed it a little too far away from him. Hill 2 decided I'm coming in. They should have had a little bit of communication there, and he should have just stayed out of the way.
Yeah.
So much of the 53-second stop sign time, though, pretty respectable. But so much of these just comes down to a little moment, and you only get one chance
Fringe
here on
taking
race
the
day.
transition flag. Staying a little wide of the curb, which is wise. Shoot flag. Now, turn very smoothly in. Nice. Clean, no sliding.
Nice tight
Buggy
turns.
through.
Great.
Also very clean.
And Gilly Rose,
Really nice turns there.
the veteran, you can see that driving. Beautiful shoot turn.
Oh, he
Coming
got
up into
toasted.
Hill 3.
Oh, he got toasted.
Even though he started
They both
early,
got toasted.
it just blew through.
Get some butter and jam. Toast being served by Fringe. Transition into 3 to 4. Trying to make up some of this time on those 4 or 5 hills. Again, things so stacked up here. What can Fringe do to get some separation?
This 4-5 transition needs to be absolutely perfect. That was great.
Great. Beautiful.
It's exactly what it was.
I think we're looking
Five,
at about a 2:14-ish here.
Yeah, it looks like it.
See, the hill 5 is working, though. Taj Springer trying to put that effort in. And he's making up quite a bit of time right here.
2:12.
13.
Cruising there, hand on the push bar, 2:13.75.
Yeah, slightly less than their time yesterday. Honestly, Connor, agree with me or not, I think it was that hill 1, hill 2 transition really cost him like that second.
I think it didn't just cost them there. I think the hill 2 was upset as well on his push because it didn't go as smoothly as he wanted. You could see him as he was walking off the course. He had his hands on his head. His whole vibe, was that this got screwed up and this was on us.
Yeah.
Well, you couple that with not a great pickup. They lost some time there.
Yeah.
They had a great shoot turn, a great roll. I mean, that was classic Fringe free roll. Very fast, very good through the shoot. But you got to execute on all cylinders. This is one of the banes, I guess, of having a large organization where you can recruit pushers from everywhere. You're tempted to take the fastest guy, and he may not be the guy with the most experience. And I think that's one of the few things that, say, a fraternity-based buggy organization has is they can almost guarantee that their pushers are there every single practice. And when you have a transition like we just saw and a pickup like we just saw, you kind of have to blame that on lack of practice.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to give the Hill 1 pusher a break. This is his first year. He's a freshman. He's getting amped up for finals. He wants to make sure he's doing a good job. He's got another 3 years, and it's obvious that he's fast.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that he'll get that sorted out. And Fringe is a team on the rise right now. They're not a team that's falling off. So having a pusher, struggle through his freshman year race day, he learned a lesson. Now next year he comes back stronger, puts up a better time, has a better transition for that 1 to 2. Hopefully the 2 comes back as well, so they have a nice tandem there. And then the Hill 3 pusher, that was a little bit more disappointing because he has been A-team the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So.
You hate to see it kind of close out like that, but that's part of the drama of all of this. Everything has to go perfect, which is very much nearly what we saw with SDC earlier when they did break that record. But the door's now open. Spirit A, CIAA, maybe exhale a little bit in terms of Fringe not necessarily setting the pace for them. We're going to see Spirit A next. They came in qualified in 3rd place, but again, very close to CIA, about 2 seconds behind, a little less than 2 seconds there. Did they leave any room to cut some time?
Absolutely. I think their hill 1 can probably do. He probably has it in him to get another quarter second off his hill 1 time. I also think just a little bit more transitions. That being said, I think there was a stigmatism across the Spirit group after the spinouts. I think that gave him a little bit more room to, all right, let's play this a little bit more safe, take a little bit more of a conservative line. They had great times, but I think today they've got those little hiccups out of the way with proving with their Spirit women's team, we can roll fast, we can do this. All you have to do is just do it again, and she's going to go fast. Their pushers are fantastic. They're going to push out a good time.
Yeah, they're going up against Apex A. What do we expect to see out of Apex here?
They've had a couple subs. Their A-team pusher, he's on the track team. They got a meet today, so he's not around for Hill 1. They got a nice sub down there, so that'll be good. Their Hill 2 pusher from yesterday, unfortunately, couldn't get out of ROTC commitments, so they have another pusher on Hill 2. So we'll see how they do. I'm honestly expecting them around like a 223-ish range today, so a little bit slower than yesterday. But you know what? They made finals on a year that they honestly had a fairly rough year in their first year of transition without the old guard. So I'm impressed that they were able to get onto day 2. I think that they did a really good job. They should be proud of themselves for what they've accomplished this year. And just, get through, don't have any stupid DQs, and build it into something for next year.
But really, the pressure here is on Spirit. Love to get a top 3 finish in both men's and women's. The potential is there. They have the pushers. Their Buggy's looking a lot, driving a lot better this year. But again, we've seen across the board issues with execution today.
Right.
As far as SDCA on the women's side, obviously to rehash that story, a missed push bar. They don't get on the podium this year. Kind of sets the tone that anything can happen. And we'll get to see that very shortly here.
I mean, with all the problems that SIGEP had going into today, you figured, they've got all that stuff done. But what happened? I mean, there was a fluke happen. Flukes happen, and it'll go through these random times when something could happen, and if Spirit puts out a great time and they take second place, something could happen to the first place team, STC, even though they put out the record time yesterday. I mean, you don't want something to happen to them, but if Spirit does phenomenal today and they're in a spot, if something does happen, as rare as it could be, we don't want anything bad to happen, but as rare as it could be, they could take the trophy home with a sub 210 time in the first time. I want to say how many years? I don't have those stats in front of me, but
I think the last time Spirit won was in the 90s. So they may be coming up on 20 years.
Yeah.
So who knows? We got a lot coming up here. Let's go ahead and introduce the rosters here. First up, for Apex A, on Hill 1, we have Alec Lamb. Hill 2, Calvin Chan. Hill 3, Alex Clyde. Hill 4, Harrison Landis. And Hill 5, Philip Petrakian. Their driver is Aaron C. And for Spirit A, on Hill 1, James Ormond. Hill 2, Shinedu Ajwoku. Hill 3, Stephen Scott. Hill 4, Malik Parker. And Hill 5, Justice Frimpong. The driver, Shalina Giewodi.
Yeah, that was good.
Also, some tough names. I need a pronunciation guy.
Yeah.
I tried my best.
Now,
Maybe
Shalina,
next year.
I think, is A-team now for the 3rd year in a row. So she's got a lot of experience in this situation. I expect to see a great roll out of her. Their push team is going to be amped up, and they're going to be in a heat for the first time in a couple of years where they're not going to have any interference. Apex is going to be behind Spirit for the whole run.
Yeah.
And even if it's a little close on Hill 1, Hill 2 they're going to take off and pass them up.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So they're going to have a nice, clean race. The only thing they have to worry about is hitting their marks. They don't have to worry about avoiding anybody else.
Yeah, not to mention, I think the best thing that Spirit has going for them, again, is having Invisid already go through a near top speed for their 18 buggy and prove that they can take the line that they need to and have a good rollout and a good pickup on the back hills. So that as we're getting reports that there's an ambulance on the course, so there's a matter of pause between the next heat. So it might be a few minutes, just letting everyone know.
Wow, as a person in the truck prepping your buggy, a pause like this is so aggravating.
Mm-hmm.
And both of the buggies were out on the line, and they both carried them back in. So now they're back in the truck, so we'll have to see what they're going to do.
It's no big secret that a lot of these buggies have heated wheels. And if you went out there and then they delayed you, it makes sense to go back in the truck and get back on those heaters. Because cold, not so quick. Warm, this urethane likes to be hot.
Now, is there a problem with having it heated cold and then reheated?
No, it's actually fairly reversible.
Okay.
Juicing, not so much. And I haven't smelled any strange fumes down here. This might be one of the few race days where I haven't smelled the ether or the, call it whatever, emanating from these buggies as they roll by. I think we're down to the era of polyurethane where at this course, heat is king.
Of course, especially on days like today where it's nice, but it's not like 80s. It's like a chilly 60s. So,
Yep, the road is not overly hot right now, but at least it's not cold.
no, it's not like you're running on like 50s or like it rained yesterday and now it's dry today but still cold.
Well, you saw that in the free roll speeds from truck weekend, where buggies were actually almost a mile an hour per hour or so slower than they had been the weekend before, and that's because it was super cold. And no matter if you're heating, you can't really do that when it's 15 degrees out. And it was evident. And why do we know this? Because the BAA set up speed traps, and we're getting great data. If you're looking at the leaderboard, there's a column just to the right of the times that shows trap speed in feet per second. And all I know is 55 feet per second is about 38 miles an hour. You can do the math from there.
Right now, we've got Fringe A at a 55.8 today in feet per second. So like Mark was saying, Bisa was hitting about 38 miles an hour going down there. They're the fastest ones recorded so far that's been put into the data sheet. CIAB, we didn't get a recorded time for them. Fringe C was at a 55.6. So even with the slower pushers, that buggy was still right up there with Bisa.
And you'll find a lot of the trap times within a few feet per second of each other.
I'll say SIGAP's times were actually on par. Just like yesterday, they were sporting, they were pretty much as fast as Bisa.
They were about 3 feet per second slower, but
Yeah.
I mean, for a buggy that only rolled 2 days of rolls, to be that fast already is that's a very impressive run for Hydra. Hopefully, whatever happened with the buggy, they can get it sorted out. The damage isn't too bad, and that they can get it back out on the course next year and get some more time prepping it and practicing with it.
I think with SIGAP, it just comes down to practice. That's pretty much all that it was. It's prep time. I mean, it's not that they didn't have the prep time today. I think they tried new things too close to race day without having like the proper time being like, okay, like we know this works, it doesn't. The time to say this works and this doesn't is truck weekend. It's like, okay, this doesn't work. We're going right back to what works. Instead of saying, hey, let's try something a little bit new, and then all of a sudden race day hits, and look at Kraken hits a hiccup, it's a small little divot in the road causes, a force on the buggy, breaks the bearing, boom, wheel falls off.
Yeah, just looking at that roll, I think we missed what those little wheels, their weakness, which is they really don't roll out. And you saw the other buggy closing right there, and that would have, if they had made it through the turn, you would have seen exactly the shortcomings of little tiny wheels versus full-size Zooter wheel, for lack of a better term. Happens typically with Pika. They usually run much quicker up to the chute and give up a little bit because the wheels don't quite have the same rotational inertia. And that's their choice, right? You run faster to a point, and the whole reason to run this race is to get to the finish quicker. So if you have a buggy that's easier to push due to the smaller wheels, you might make the call to give it up. Certainly SIGAP had a great push. The little wheels actually held up better in the downhill than I thought, but they crashed before we could really see their shortcomings. So be interesting to see if they can make it around with that buggy next year without either somebody hitting them or them hitting the curb. But kudos to them for trying stuff. Negatives for them trying it kind of late in the season. Yeah. Ciao.
And one thing that I'm looking at here on the leaderboard, Fringe did not have a measurement on their speed for yesterday. And we didn't get an SCC speed measurement either. But the speed measurement we do have for Fringe C, or Fringe B, I should say, was a 51.7. Their C team today, we have them at a 55 on that speed trap. So either they're rolling a lot faster today, or we're having a little bit of difficulties with the consistency on the speed trap. But I'm thinking it's speed. They look fast today.
And still in a bit of a delay. Was an ambulance on the course. I believe the Sophie driver involved in the SIGAB crash was taken in an ambulance. Not sure if it was just precautionary. Working on getting that sorted out. So we are in a bit of a delay. Waiting to resume things here.
Usually,
Well, the crowd in the chute is now probably, I'm saying, 500 people, so it's a much larger crowd. It's a beautiful day, magnificent sunshine, blue skies. The green beach is open. So if you're in your dorm listening to this on RCT, get out here. We'd like to see you.
WRCT
And
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. And by the way, a P sighting. The P in ESP, standing right here in the chute. You can touch him for $1.
oh, well,
Wow.
in that case.
And we talked a little bit while we are in delays about kind of the mechanical side.
Sure.
But as a driver, or not a driver, well, as a driver, but also as a pusher out there on the course, how does this go into your preparation? Like, what does it affect it at all?
As far as having a crash?
No, in
Or-
terms of just an extended delay like this. You thought you were about to go on. There's kind of this indefinite holding pattern now. What does that do to the pushers?
As far as pushes are concerned, you're worried about how warmed up you are for the next heat. Because you want to be warmed up just like your wheels. You want to be warmed up to the point where you're not exerting yourself. You don't want to be like, energy deprived as soon as you get to your hills. Having a delay means you're, all right, now you're going to rest. Or are you going to rest? What's that going to do to you as a pusher? Honestly, what you do is you kind of do what you need to do. Every pusher is different. Everyone goes up to a race differently. I usually had headphones on right up until the race started. But I think that was just me. I think it messes with the pushers a lot more because they're anticipating it. Drivers are already in the buggies. They're waiting for it. They're good to go. Mechanics are just worried about their timing with their heating.
And it definitely, pushing on hill too, we had a little bit of a delay when I was on a race due to a crash in the chute. And I know that at the top of the hill, my nerves were racing. And the longer and longer we had to wait, it wasn't really getting any better. I just kind of wanted to go. I had all that built up anticipation, energy, adrenaline, and you just kind of felt yourself like shaking a little bit, and you just really wanted to get going. So having a delay like this, not great for the pushers, for sure. Definitely probably got some nerves going on out there.
And you wonder how that might play into the, psychology of Spirit, where, Fringe A left the door open a bit for them. They have a shot to jump up on CIA, but it has been a day, where we've seen a lot of sloppiness. Does this give them some extra time to focus? Does this give some extra time for the voices in their heads to, overthink some things? Time will tell when we get on the course. We don't have an official ruling yet about when we'll reopen. Again, obviously safety first, taking those precautions, getting an ambulance, getting Sophie the driver out.
Yeah, I would say the biggest impact of a delay like this is really to the mechanics in the truck and the prep of the buggies. It looks like they have plenty of time to recover from having rushed out to the line and then having to take the buggies back. Pushers, they're going to be fast if they were fast when they woke up this morning. If they're slow like me, they will be slow all day. But you got to get the prep right, and when you have a disturbance in the timing, and here we had a double, right? We had a first delay when the crash happened, and now a follow-on delay. That plays havoc in the truck.
And so we will see those effects. Again, I think we're getting a bit of an update here, just trying to see what's coming across the wire.
Yeah. As far with Radio Club,
Yeah, it looks like we do have a report. Sophie, she is stable.
Yeah.
Just awaiting transport in the ambulance. Not sure, how precautionary it is. Obviously, a bit of a spill. Probably want to check for potential concussion, anything like that. Just tumbling around.
Yeah, with a lot of things that, medically speaking, that goes on, there's a lot of things that they want to clear first. Especially certain injuries can be onset later on. It takes time. You never really know. So that's what they're trying to make sure. They don't want to have her be cleared and then she goes home and then something worse happens later on. So it's precautionary. But that's why we have emergency personnel on site, because they're the experts. They're able to make those decisions. You don't want someone who's not qualified in emergency medical care making those decisions.
While we are on a bit of a pause, do see a lot of new faces have come out here. Give a recap of the women's race earlier, which very exciting, very kind of chaotic. The story coming into the day, SDCA about a second off of breaking the record time. They missed the push bar on their Hill 5. What does that mean? That meant they were disqualified. That means your winner on the women's side this year, 2016, for the second year in a row, was CIAA. They came in at a 231. In second place was Fringe A at a 235.9, and third place was Spirit A, 237.7. So congrats to those three teams. And, obviously kind of setting the tone for what's been coming in the men's of a little bit of unpredictability, a little bit of teams getting in their own way. Not necessarily making things happen for themselves even when they've had the chance.
Right.
And you hate to see SDC go out that way, but part of the game.
It's absolutely part of it. Everyone gets really competitive. I think Connor will speak to this as well. During rolls, everyone's pretty much friendly. It's you go and talk to each other during rolls. Hey, how's it going? It's fun. It's fun at rolls, except once April rolls around and it says Raceday preview on the BAA website, everyone switches off. And it's like, now I'm fighting against you. And it's unfortunate, but it's a race. It's competitive. This is why we do it. It's the exhilaration of it. Anything can happen.
All right, could we please clear Hill 1? Folks on the course, please clear Hill 1. Ambulance is moving. Please keep Hill 1 clear. Thank you.
And SDC this morning, they knew that all they had to do was kind of go easy, and they would just make it around the course.
Please clear the course. The ambulance is moving. If you see the ambulance coming towards you, get out of the way.
It appears that the ambulance is going to be going down the back hills, so if you are on the back hills, please watch out. There is a emergency medical vehicle trying to get past.
Hills 3, 4, 5, back hills. Please do clear the course. Ambulance coming through.
And anybody in the chute as well, the ambulance will be headed towards you guys, so please clear the chute as well.
Mark, that's on you.
The chute's actually pretty clear, so
All right.
ambulance should be able to get through here
Good.
easily. The course marshals down here have been super good, keeping people off the bales, keeping people out of the street. So kudos to those people in the orange vests.
I'm going to give a nice shout out to all the course marshals up here on Hill 1 and Hill 2 as well, doing a great job. But also, thank you to all of the staff who have volunteered to be out here today. All of our judges, all of our timekeepers. Thank you again. I remember introducing all of you back in 2012 to how Buggy works, and you guys are still coming out. I know all the judges on the finish line now have the tick because they're all new this year. They're like, oh, we love it. We're coming back next year. So Casey does a great job of recruiting some great CMU staff from the Office of Student Life and elsewhere. And thank you to all the staff that come back and help. It's nice seeing familiar faces like Holly Hippensteel come back and drive the lead truck. She's probably the best driver on the course.
It's impressive. Some of those whips around into the reverse going downhill 1.
Yeah.
I don't know what she drives at home, but if it's a Ford F-150 like today.
And you also have really dedicated people like Lindy as well.
Oh, yeah.
Giving her a shout out. She helped me a lot when I was design comp chair. I know she's very involved with that, making sure everything gets printed and sent out. And she was at the BAA luncheon yesterday, checking everybody in.
Yeah,
and
she was.
She's up here today selling Buggy books as well. So big shout out to Lindy.
Right, just so if people are wondering, the ambulance didn't take anyone anywhere. It just came down here to assume its normal position.
Okay. We have
So,
another ambulance,
there's no
actually.
one-
Yeah, please
This
clear
one.
on Shenley Drive. Please clear the exit there.
to the
this ambulance.
to the barricader at Hill 2. There's an ambulance coming to. Oh, okay, never mind. It's going down the free roll. So
We're still waiting word on these. This again, we will be resuming safety. Obviously, number one concern here. Midway through the men's finals here, we've seen 2 heats thus far coming through on the men's side. Fringe A currently in first place at 213.747. Second place CIA B with a 216. Fringe C 220, and it did not finish for SIGEP B with that crash there coming out of the chute.
Clock is running. 5 minutes until
All right,
men's
and I
heat
just
3.
got word the clock has resumed. 5 minutes until we get races back up and running. Excited to get this action back going. Again, the heat that we will be seeing in just under 5 minutes. Spirit A, Apex A, Spirit A. A really great chance here to be in the top 3,
Yep.
potentially number 2, maybe number 1. Again, the way things have been going today, hard to tell. They just got to make sure they put everything together, stay focused.
right, and not to mention, like, even if they don't take the number 1 spot this year, Spirit has come so far. It's a testament to themselves. Even though you're not the top, you're still beating yourself from last year, and that's always like your worst enemy. Because you can't control what everybody else does, but you can control what you do. And as long as you can beat yourself from last year, be faster, be more rigid as far as how everything's working out. That's the best you can do. And it really builds up the team, seeing how invested everybody is, how much better you are from last year. Huge testament to Spirit. Shout out to their alumni for keeping involved. I did not realize until yesterday how involved their alumni are, especially how old their alumni are. Not saying how old they were, because you know who you are, but it's
Get
essentially
some shaking hands at us from outside the booth.
not you, the other guy.
But, no, they stay involved
They
for
stay-
a very long time.
Yes, that's what I mean. It's not like you have alumni from 5 or 6 years ago. You have alumni from like further and further back, coming back and being like, "Hey, this didn't work 10 years ago. You know, this didn't work 10 years ago for a reason. Don't go repeating our mistakes."
Yeah.
So it's great to see that. It's great to see their help. And like I said before about they call themselves a family for a reason, and it's like it's been that way for how many years?
Yeah, I mean, no matter what happens, you always see their celebration, at the end of a buggy, no matter how race day went. Obviously, would be great to see them celebrating, potentially taking home a trophy. They have the opportunity to do that in just under 3 minutes here. Spirit A going up against Apex A here.
I wonder if I said Spirit alumni are old again, how much grief he would get me. He's right there next to the speaker.
This is like one of the weirdest broadcasting days. So this is a radio broadcast, but this is also a live broadcast. I'm just kind of talking meta right now. We've been talking for a while. It's like weird watching people watch you. Anyway.
Oh no, it is. And I think the other thing is, I know people listen to us, and we've come from our own individual organizations. Connor from Apex, myself being a SIGEP alum. But we try to be as even, I guess, non-biased to all the other orgs. And eventually, once you get to a point of alumni status, you start to be like, well, I can't control what my team does anymore, so I'm just going to kind of support everybody and hope for good races. I just want to see something fast.
And I think that you can agree with me on this one. If anything, we tend to be harder on our own teams than we
Always.
do on the other teams.
Yeah.
So definitely have to watch ourselves when talking about our own teams, because both of us probably like, oh, when I was here, I probably would have done this, but we're not here anymore.
Yeah.
It's up to the new guys to figure it out.
figure it out they will under 2 minutes here until the resumption of Race Day 2016. This, the third of 5 heats in the men's finals. Currently atop the leaderboard, Fringe A at a 2:13.747. But all teams who finished ahead of them yet to go. The first of those here is going to be Spirit A. After that, we'll end up seeing CIA A, and then, of course, SDCA, who set a record yesterday. But after we saw with their women's A team,
1 minute.
anything can happen.
Yeah.
We'll get into the psychology of that race very shortly. 1 minute. Expect to see the buggies being placed on the course here soon. Those wheels heated back up. See Calvin Chan over there on Hill 2 getting warmed up as a pusher. Great day, beautiful day for Buggy right here. Excited to be getting some races back up and going.
Absolutely.
We've got Invisid coming out to the line here. And Ember right behind it, so both teams were able to get their wheels heated up back on the buggies and ready to go without any problems.
Less than 30 seconds to go.
And just to remind everyone on Hill 1 on the Skivo's side, the area on the sidewalk is always going to be used for drops. So just remember to clear out in 2.5 minutes, because they'll be running through.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, set.
Here we go. Race day back underway. You see Spirit following behind their A team. They feel an energy in the air. Maybe this is their year. Flying up through Hill 1.
We need a sub 16.8.
He's right about that 16.8 time.
Yeah.
And a great transition from both teams there into Hill 2.
That's the distance you want. That's a Hill 2 push.
That's a great Hill 2 push. Both teams pushing off great early, nice shoves, going into the free roll, solid times.
About 27 seconds to the crosswalk, so that's good, but not amazing up and over. Right.
See here, cruising into the free roll.
Spirit pulling away with that better buggy technology as we expected them to. Ember holding solidly behind and both taking nice, tight lines. 54 at the stop sign.
That's, yeah. Oh, if their back hills are as good as we think they are, they might be able to
Spirit
pull out
through the
a
upper
211.
transition flag. Rolling smoothly. Taking the shoot. Nice turn in. Smooth. Oh yeah.
Very
Great
tight.
turn
There
going.
we
Great.
Wow.
That might be shoot turn of the day, Mark. What do you
Ember
think?
coming through. Great turn for her. Nice hugging the inside bail. See the pickup on 3.
Nice.
Wow, they rolled up, and he almost nailed it.
There we
He's
go.
a little
No.
behind, but they
and
are
he
running.
caught up to that. He is flying that Hill 3.
That's Spirit looking fantastic. And not so much that the buggy beat him up the hill. It was just enough for him to get to his top speed and catch it on the momentum. Yeah.
That was pretty beautiful. Hill 4 flying, getting ready for the transition to Hill 5.
50-second
There it is.
transition.
There's the roll.
It's a bit of a roll. Spirit flying up Hill 5 now. Justice coming in there. Trying to get a top time for the day.
Gonna be right at 2:10.
Yep. Come
Crushing that
on.
buggy.
Break that 10.
Lost a little bit of time right
11.
there. Hand on the push bar.
11.
2:11.78 for Spirit A.
Great time.
8-minute warning until men's heat 4. 8-minute warning.
So that was a shoot turn from Spirit that was probably their best.
Well,
Is that a push bar?
he missed it, but he got on it as the nose crossed. That was a great dive. I got to give him that.
We'll have to see the replay on that. Spirit just about the same time as they had yesterday.
Little
Waiting for the official.
I think it's they got a
bit
little
faster.
faster. I think it's going to be a couple seconds faster.
That-
But even so, look at the times compared to this year, to last year,
Yeah.
to years before. The past 5 years, Spirit has gone from top tier 2, bottom tier 1 to definite tier 1 possible race day leaders, depending on what happens with the rest of the day.
Here's the replay.
Yeah, replay here. Is that Hill 5 truck in there. And looking for the nose.
No.
He missed it, but the
Wow.
Chinese judge gives the
Skadoosh.
10 on the dive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Risk it for the biscuit, though. You love to see that on Raceday. Superman laying out for the push bar. There's a passion. I love Buggy.
Can
I
everyone
really hope
please,
somebody's got a
Please
side.
watch the hill ones, please. Trucks are coming down. Sorry, go ahead,
So
Connor.
if a Pica brother had done that, would he be a flying fish?
Oh. Oh. Oh.
We're just all stopping at that.
Sorry.
Mark, that was a stretch.
If a Pica brother got smoked by the Buggy on Hill 3, would it be smoked salmon?
Oh.
I don't know. This is
Locks? I don't know.
fresh or salt water.
Oh my. We need to reel it in.
All right.
Oh.
All right. That's enough. I'm putting a stop to this.
All right, let's talk about Buggy again. I'm sorry, everyone. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. 2 more heats left on the men's side. CIAA SDCC here in this 4th heat. CIAA rolling a pretty much clean 210 yesterday, 210.05, which was good for 2nd place. Trying to hold on to that position, maybe move up a little bit. You know, in terms of for team, just kind of momentum, breaking that 210 barrier would be great for the CIA squad.
Yeah. It would be great. They definitely have it in them, especially from yesterday. We're just looking for the same performance. We know their drivers are good decision makers when it comes to the shoot and making the correct line, and we know how fast they are. We know how good their pushers are. I know they went all out yesterday. I think CIA men's have something to prove because their women's have the bragging rights. Their women's teams have the trophies. So it's like, all right, well, now our men need to step it up. And I think they did that yesterday as far as seeing such a competitive time. But you need to see flawless transitions. They didn't have great transitions yesterday. If I remember correctly, their Hill 3 wasn't superb. So we need a superb pickup, and we need great transitions. We saw
Can you
today.
guys run through the leaderboard?
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. So let me see if those latest scores have come through. All right, Spirit A, after that, had a 211.759. That puts them in 1st place. In 2nd place is Fringe A, a 213.747. 3rd place would be CIA B currently, a 216.630. 4th place would be Fringe C with a 220.322. And then in last currently would be Apex A with a 225. And then obviously it did not finish from Sig Ep B. So that would put Apex A in 5th place.
Sig Ep. It's kind of a sigh moment just because you know how much work goes into it. You know how much work and dedication the drivers put into it. And, yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about that if anybody else wants to comment. But, no, I definitely feel for the team. I feel for the pushers. They had like, it was like a second chance at a shot, and it was unfortunate. And I know there's a lot of shout out to the senior pushers this year on A team. It's not the way you want to end a senior year. You guys have been fantastic, good role models for the team. Come back next year for sweepstakes and do some exhibition heats. We'll see a sub 210 time from those pushers.
Yeah.
We see the teams warming up here, CIAA, but kind of interesting to see SDC out here. Jordan Coons on their A team, but really coaching up, these C team pushers. And when we talk, to the culture of SDC and why they are so good, it's moments like this where very seriously, your top guy, a great all-time pusher out there, working with, some of the younger folks out there, keeping that knowledge flowing, passing down, and why they are such a well-oiled machine.
Right. Now, today we're looking at we got SCIAA and SDCC. SDCC put up a 19.4 Hill 1, but CIA put up a 17.2. So we have a 2-second spread on Hill 1. Even if both hill ones run a tad bit faster, you're going to see one pull away from the other, especially for the free roll. Coupled with the fact that CIA is running, are we running Equinox again as far as their 18?
Equinox
Yeah, so
for 18.
we saw Equinox today pull out one of the best times for their women with their women's team, for their A team. So all CIA has to do is do almost like what Spirit did today. It's almost the same recipe. Oh, we know you can roll fast. Just do it again. Make the same line. You know you're going to roll just as fast, if not a little bit faster. So they can do it. The confidence in your driver to roll at those speeds and make those decisions is extremely helpful, especially with them being able to, like, okay, I know which line I need to take for going this fast. You know, you look at Spirit getting all those windows.
Let's go ahead and introduce the rosters as these buggies are getting brought onto the court. SDCC, Hill 1, Alex Yang. Hill 2, Cody Yang. Hill 3, Alex Duncan. Hill 4, Alex Noring. Hill 5, Roman Kaufman. And the driver, Kiyoko Inagawa. And for CIAA, on Hill 1, Nick Takowiak. Hill 2, Kevin Wang. Hill 3, Vincent Liu. Hill 4, Nat Jeffries. Hill 5, Noah Fatsy. And the driver, Amy Hunt.
Yeah, today's going to be a good day for CIA if we can see a performance from yesterday.
And let's see, obviously, post 210, something they'd love to have for their team. But on the other side of the coin, you know, we saw SDCA women's push themselves a little bit too much. Didn't get the push bar there. What's that balance for CIA?
I mean, I think it gives CIA a little bit more hope in the fact that if they pull out a great race,
10,
that they can take the
9,
leaderboard.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, set.
Here we go. CIAA looking to take the top spot on the leaderboard. Pretty powerful on Hill 1. Lots of separation between the buggy and the pusher. Getting a little bit more control now.
Faster time than yesterday.
About 16 and a half there.
Yeah, just under 17 seconds.
This kid's flying on 2.
Kevin Wang, a ton of speed.
Great.
27, that's right where Spirit was,
Yeah.
right?
But if you look at that, you look at how this Hill 2 pusher pushed. He pushed just before it was starting to get away from him. So he got the cleanest shove off that he could.
And the buggy was also pointed completely straight. That's another important thing. If the buggy's turning a little bit when you push it, you're going to lose some. The tail might slide, but she was perfectly straight. All of that momentum went straight forward and into the hill.
SDCC also rolling pretty clean.
About a
look at that.
52, 53 there, so a little bit faster than Spirit.
Faster than Spirit on the free roll.
Right. CIA coming in. Running smoothly down to the transition flag, shoot flag, turning in. Nice turn. Smooth, a little wobble, but I would say 99 out of 100 right there.
There we
Rolling
go.
out very strong. Here comes SDC. Little bit of a fishing of the tail right there, but also through. Just a tiny flop.
Look at how high up he
Wow,
was.
that's a hell of a rollout.
Ton of speed coming out of the chute right there. Pretty good catching up to it though.
And a
Great
monster,
transition.
Nat
That's
Jeffries.
what we talked about with transitions. That's what you need to see out of CIA for them to take the spot away from Spirit.
CIA, some powerful athletes they've gotten on their squad now, and really showing why they're putting together a strong A team here. The transition from the 4 to the 5.
They set a record yesterday,
They're gonna
beating
go
their
under
1980.
210.
Yeah, beating their 1980 something record. They're going to be well under that today.
That looked like it was just about to get away from him and got scared for him a little bit. Oh, here we go.
Right there from CIAA.
Sub
Nearing
210.
that finish line. Can they get sub 210?
There
Here
it
goes
is.
the push bar. A 2:08.9.
New team record for CIAA. That's putting them 2 seconds faster than their team record, which they set yesterday.
And SDCC, a 2:19.62. Wow,
Yes, so-
what a roll by CIAA.
You had a great shoot turn and a very nice pickup.
Yeah. That's what you need. That's what CIA needed this year. They needed to see that like they can put it all together. They have the capability. Now they have the depth and pushers to do it. Now it's like that combination of great buggies and great pushers.
So that pushes CIAA into first place there. That 208.9. Great time from them. And that means we have one more heat. SDCA, SDCB.
Yeah. Now this is the heat. It's not because it's SDCA versus SDCB. Yeah, okay. It's really about SDCA. It's SDCA because of the time they put up yesterday. And is it detrimental to them because now it's like, okay, well, we set the record yesterday. Are we trying to go for it again or just take the lead with anything close to a 205 and below? You know, because if you held back a little, take a conservative line, that's a second. If you do anything else, it's like 1 or 2 seconds. That's still saying we're at 204. You know, it's definitely beating CIA. And, like, making sure your hand's on the push bar, maybe that's a second. So, do you, A, kill the course, set the record, blow everyone out of the park, or B, take it safe and take home the trophy?
No way do they take it easy. They didn't take it easy for the women. They wanted the record. They want another record today for the men. You only get so many chances to set records. And these roads, you know, you have a bad winter, there could be some potholes on it next year that could slow them down. So how long, you know, what age are these pushers? When are they going to come back to? They get hurt before race day next year. You're going for it.
Yeah.
Talking to the aged minds down here in the chute, the veteran observers from several organizations, as good as SDCA was yesterday, and they were amazing, they left some on the table. That wasn't their best free roll, right? It wasn't, and it wasn't necessarily all their best transitions. So it's in reach. They could crack the magic number today, 2 flat, and that would be something. And if that's dangling in front of you, you got to go for it. Why not? It's Buggy.
Especially, right, so much is riding on this men's team. You know, the women missed the push bar earlier today. They have the question now of, do you go for history, do you set a record, or do you just get on the podium? I think we know SDC. We know what SDC's DNA is. Their DNA is to obliterate the competition, 150% down the course, full speed. We could be witnessing something very special today.
Yeah. I don't think that getting down to 2 minutes is a lot. I think at this level, I think that's a little bit too out of reach. Definitely them shaving off a couple half seconds here and there, hitting 202 is, I think that's more doable. I think them hitting 2 minutes is just too far.
That's why we roll them.
Yep.
And an interesting fact, we have no requests for rerolls thus far.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, but it's also nice and a testament to, by and large, how clean the driving has been and how well the course has treated the buggies, for lack of a better term.
And I think a lot, you look at how rerolls are actually granted. I think the fact that when you go through heat selection, you try to make sure you put a team that's just faster than the other team, so you have like a gap. I think today's gaps, I think the biggest one was Apex, just because you guys had substitutions. But you would expect things like, I mean, the only one that was even close was the SIGUP crash and CIA. But CIA was always pretty much passing, and actually passed in the chute when she was crashing. So there wasn't really cause for a reroll then.
Well, rerolls happen a lot when there's spins in the chute or passing. And in the modern era, where now just about every organization is rolling within a foot per second of each other, and they all have good or great wheels, with rare exceptions, there hasn't been a lot of passing. There hasn't been a lot of issue in the chute because the chute's so smooth, and so you're not going to see a lot of rerolls.
3 minutes.
About 3 minutes here until the start of this, the final heat of Raceday 2016. SDCA already set a record yesterday at 202 and a half, but they're hungry. They want to maybe push that further. They got to make sure they can actually complete the race. Again, we saw earlier, SDCA women's earlier today, you know, it looked like it was probably a sure thing they were taking home a trophy. Missed the push bar. all of a sudden there you have it. CIA are your women's champions. So nothing can be taken for granted here in this race. All coming your way in under 3 minutes.
Now remember, SDCA right now has King of the Hill time at 16.18 seconds. That's what we're looking for. I think anything that's going to be a hiccup there is going to be the hiccup of the day. Hill 1's the worst. Hill 1, anything slower and anything with a Hill 3 pickup are going to be your trouble areas. I don't think you're going to have trouble with Malice. You're not going to have trouble in the free roll. You're not going to have anyone try to pass. I mean, if anyone tries to pass Malice, you're doing something wrong. Or doing something incredibly illegal. Let's put it that way. So it's going to be Hill 1 being slower, or a bad Hill 3 pickup's going to be their trouble areas, but I don't really see that happening.
Now, Mark, a quick question for you.
Real quick, let me get the rosters out there. Getting close to the start of this race. For the B team, Hill 1, Kevin Davis-Sentis. Hill 2, Danny Vidova. Hill 3, Boyao Yu. Hill 4, Eli Workman. Hill 5, Brandon Foster. And the driver, Elizabeth G. And for SDCA, Hill 1, Sam Banger. Hill 2, Jordan the Flash Coons. Hill 3, Ryan Aguirre. Hill 4, Brian Corey. Hill 5, Oliver Libbard. And the driver, Anna Black.
Now, Mark, what I was going to ask is, Malice here has won, I believe, 4, maybe 5 races. Is there another buggy in history who's won more races than that?
I think you'd have to go back to like ATO, who had a streak. It was the streak before Pika's, but it was back in the 60s, 70s. They had a buggy that won quite a few in a row. I am not the encyclopedia that Tom Wood is, but I would say there hasn't really been a buggy like Malice since the 80s, perhaps the 70s.
Buggies now being placed on the course.
Yeah, they're on the court.
Nope. Moments away from the final heat of Raceday 2016. SDCA already made history yesterday,
9,
but ultimately
8, 7,
that doesn't count in the finals.
6,
This
5,
does.
4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, set.
Both teams are off. SDCA eyeing another record performance, eyeing a trophy. Coming up strong on Hill 1.
Yeah, he was like 15, 16 right there.
Yeah.
Picked up a little bit of time there. Jordan Coons flying into that Hill 2.
25 at the crosswalk.
It might have actually been just shy of 25. Very impressive up and over.
Yeah.
That's exactly how a Hill 1-2 transition should happen. Pushed it early, pushed it cleanly,
Pretty sure those are
and they were
leads.
flying.
And Malice just zooming through the free roll. Ton of speed coming through there. We're going to get to that stop sign.
49.
About 49 seconds.
They're smoking.
52 seconds.
That's faster than yesterday. They were 50 yesterday.
Yeah.
Malice at the upper transition, coming down looking quick, followed by Orange Buggy.
Avarice.
Avarice, yeah.
Malice turning in. Oh, a little bit of a skid there, but coming through. Lost a little bit of speed, but through cleanly. Avarice also shed a little bit of speed with a slide, but rolling very nice.
And now it's all up to the back hills. What are we going to see here?
See, I'm telling you.
Yep, see, that slide affected the rollout. They're not going to do it.
Nope.
Hill 3 transitions into Hill 4. Giving it all he has, flying up that hill. Brian Curry. SDCA looking to close out another race day, take home another trophy as they near the final 4-5 transition. The shove is off. Oliver Libbard picking up that buggy.
205.
Yeah.
I don't know. This kid was an 18-second yesterday.
Just flying, putting a lot behind there. Just a freshman here. And he's coming up close on that finish line.
3. Oh.
And that's going to be a 2:03.11. No record, but that's going to be good for first place.
They just went 1-2. They just went 1-2.
And 2:08.07 with the B team. Wow. Oh,
Yeah,
my.
CIA is a machine. Holy
Sweet
cow.
to be
Well, I think-
SDC.
I'll just say STC might be the machine there, Mark.
Wow.
Is that what you meant?
Excuse me, I'm a little dyslexic.
That's all right. It happens.
And we need to get that official time very
Right.
close to the CIA, both in a 2:08 range.
SDCB was a 2:15 yesterday.
Well, they had a massive slide in the chute yesterday.
They did.
Yeah, and they shed easily 5 seconds back here.
I think also coupled with the fact that they're racing their A team kind of added a little bit of competitiveness to it. So you probably have pushers racing a little bit faster on each hill.
So we got to see here where that 2:08 pans out. Either they push CIA to third, or that would put them in third. Again, it'll be within fractions of a second. Want to get the official time. At this point, CIAA is in first place, a 2:08.884. Spirit second place with a 2:11.759. Just looking for the scores to come in. The confirmed final time for SDCA, your winning time for this men's sweepstakes, a 2:03.101. Still crazy fast.
Which I'm pretty sure still actually beats the
The record from last year. And SDCB, we have their time, a 2:08.062, giving them second place.
They're
That is
certainly back. Erase all doubt about SDC falling off. They've done this a few times in the past with massively impressive A and B times, and here they are doing it again.
and an agonizing morning for them on the women's side, obviously, not finishing with the push bar. But on the men's side, they make up for that very much. So how'll that have the final leaderboard shakeout? SDCA with a 2:03.101, your champion. SDCB, a 2:08.062. Kind of out of nowhere taking second place like that, cutting 7 seconds off from the day before. Third place. Congratulations, CIAA, who were the women's champions. They got 2:08.884. Fourth place, Spirit A, a 2:11.759. Fifth, Fringe A, 2:13.6. CIAB.
Now, with SCC taking it, their 2009 record was a 2:03.3. So even if you don't count prelim times, they still set the course record. But I think we're all going to just just accept that the 2:05.5 is the new course record, regardless of if it's a final time or not.
Very impressive stuff. Gents, some last thoughts as we wrap up race day. An exciting weekend. Final thoughts on what we saw.
Connor, you go first.
Absolute course domination by SDC. CIA continuing to build their program. Fringe, bit of a recovery. Spirit, major recovery, coming in fourth place on the men's side without any problems. 6 seconds faster than any time they put up last year. And Apex A coming in there in the top. Out of all of the, the teams, they're the small one to still be making it to day 2. They got to be happy with that. And the big one is just the drop-off of the fraternities. Not seeing a single frat in the top 10 in the men's or the top 8 in the women's. That's kind of sad to see. Fraternities are the ones that built this sport up. So hopefully, both sweepstakes and CMU can try to maybe work with the frats a little bit, find out what they can do to push them to get more involved and more excited about Buggy again.
I don't think it's necessarily you can't do anything with the school to get fraternities excited. You brought up a great point about the Greeks not being on the leaderboard anymore. And I think that's I think that's a CMU culture coupled with a national Greek culture that's kind of a movement. Is pushing towards, I think, more social than involvement of Greek organizations. And that can be seen by mistakes and punishments handed down to Pi Kappa Alpha, and you see a lack of participation in SIGEP. I mean, Pica is not being allowed to roll as Pi Kappa Alpha because of that, not seeing their team as depth as it used to be in later years. You also have SIGEP not practicing as much as it used to, and it clearly has shown on the course with the mistakes they've had. Not saying they're not a good team, but when they do practice and they do everything correctly, you see great 2:10 times. You see 2:07s. I think they were close to a 2:06 once. But ever since then, with enthusiasm dropping off in the house, and that's just a house mentality, that hurts the team. And the school can't do anything about it. But the school can do, this is clear personal view, is looking at not punishing teams for doing Buggy, but in turn, like, finding some way other. Because what Buggy's doing is it's bringing people together. If anything, not doing Buggy is detrimental to everyone. It's not necessarily hurting just Pi Kappa Alpha, or not just necessarily just hurting Sigma Phi Epsilon, but it's hurting the entire course. We all want to see them no matter what. So I think what the school can do is really watch how they're dividing up punishments, but we also, those organizations really have to look at re-evaluating priorities. And it's like, well, do we want to be a fun team, or do we want to go back to being competitive? And we need to make some serious decisions to get back to where we were. CIA made the decision of being competitive. Look at them now. A 208. Spirit had a chance of being like, oh, we can stay where we are or get better. And they got better. So that's what you see. SDC, oh, we're good, but we can do better, and they have done better. They're setting off the course.
Right. If I may give you my thoughts on Raceday, the good, wow. A lot of fast teams, a lot of teams doing better, a lot of teams bettering their records, right? Spirit's back. CIA is continuing their renaissance, for lack of a better word. And then you see that practice does really count, right? You cannot throw something out there and wonder if it's going to work. So you saw a lot of organizations with Sigma in their name. SigEp, Sigma Nu, SAE, not here today, right? And they didn't have to be that way. They were here, but they didn't finish. And that's all about trying to, you got to work at it, right? And to touch on the point of fraternal involvement, I think there's there's an issue, which is it's not a level playing field, right? 15 guys at Sigma Nu, by the time you have a truck crew, you got 5 pushers. You got flaggers and sweepers, and you're done. You cannot compete against the rest of the campus with that. So there needs to be a leveling of the playing field, or make a separate playing field. Make a fraternity division, make an independent division, and you'll have close racing between similarly sized organizations in terms of both manpower and funding, right? Hard to compete with somebody who has a $5,000 or more budget every year when there's 15 guys paying for it out of their own pockets, right? So it's clearly the age of the fraternities has passed, right? And the advantages they had, not so strong anymore. This is the age of the independents, and it's great. It's great racing, but it's not the same race. And that's my 2 cents.
Certainly a very interesting point in Buggy history. Historic weekend as it was, seeing some records broken. Congratulations to all the teams out there. I want to give a whole bunch of thank yous to everybody who helped out. Obviously, Sweepstakes, all the work that they do. CMU-TV for putting this up there. WRCT for putting us on the airwaves. W3VC Radio Club for helping with the communications. Student Affairs, Casey Palco, all the work you do. WRCT, already mentioned you guys. EMS for keeping folks safe out there. Thank you all for coming out, enjoying the racing, joining us here for yet another year. We've had a blast. We'll see you next year at Raceday 2017. For Mark, for Anthony, for Connor, for Michael, I'm Will Weiner. See you next year. Enjoy your carnival.